Chapter 256. Now, Mount Fulong had been leveled into a medicine field with hooks and excavators. A large number of spirit herb seeds and spirit medicine seedlings were transported over from Shenong School. They had been planted and a villa had been built. However, Jiang Tian's use of Mount Fulong wasn't as simple as using it as a medicine field. He wanted to set up a large array. Once this array was set up, it would be even more powerful than the 5-element spirit gathering array. It would be filled with spirit qi, and even ordinary people could live longer. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, planned to let his grandfather, parents, sister Qinga, and sister Ziwei move in and cultivate together. However, this array wasn't as simple as the 5-element spirit gathering array in number 1 King's Mansion. Of course, the King's Mansion was not bad, but Xiu Lake was only 10 square kilometers of water, and Lion Peak was only a 100-meter hill. How much spirit qi could there be? Mount Fulong was different. It stretched for more than 10 kilometers and was hundreds of meters above sea level. Moreover, there was a huge earth-fire spirit vein underground, which was also the reason for the Tang Mountain hot spring. Moreover, it was located in the suburbs of Jinling and wasn't polluted. The spirit qi was purer and more abundant, 10 times more powerful than the King's Mansion. The array that Jiang Tian had been planning these days was to cover an area of 1 kilometer. It was 10 times more powerful and complicated than the 5-element spirit gathering array. It would guide and condense the spirit qi of more than 10 kilometers into this array. Moreover, he had to take into account the functions of illusion, attack, defense, lightning, fog, and so on. The materials used were extraordinary. It could be said to be an earth-shattering array. Jiang Tian was already vigilant after his experience at the Martial Arts Alliance conference. He would definitely kill along the way. Needless to say, he would offend martial arts experts and might even make the government wary. If someone wanted to take revenge, this array would at least be able to withstand a day and night of firepower attacks. A few days ago, Jiang Tian had greeted the heroes of Lingnan and Huang Wentao of the spell world, asking them to gather the materials for the array. Today was the day he handed over to them. Mr. Jiang. Master Kong. When they saw Jiang Tian enter, Jiangbei's representative Yi Gufeng, Jiangnan's Bai Choufei, Tai Minghuang, Tang Xiaoze, and many other powerful cultivators all stood up, bowing respectfully, appearing incomparably humble. Congratulations to Master Kong for shaking Jinling and wiping out the 3 great clans. Yeah, this battle was really beautiful. Everyone congratulated together, their eyes filled with excitement and reverence. It could be said that the Jiang family had reaped a lot of benefits from this financial war. Naturally, the various forces and families that had provided funds to participate in this war had also made a lot of money. It's all thanks to everyone's concerted efforts that we have today's results. Have a seat. As Jiang Tian lazily sat down, he gestured for everyone to sit down and said with a chuckle, "Without Master Kong, we couldn't have one." Only then did everyone dare to sit down and speak politely. How are the materials for the array formation coming along? Wow, you must have spent a lot of money, right? Add up the bill and I'll transfer it to your account. Jiang Tian glanced at the huge tea room filled with boxes and said with a smile. The people from Lingnan had done a good job. There were many pieces of jade, including chalcedony, 1,000-year-old gloomy wood, black iron, sea rhythm multicolored stone, devil flame stone, sky wind vine, and so on. About 1 billion. Bai Choufei reported. However, Master Kong, you don't have to pay. It's enough to take out the money from the 3 families. It could be said that everyone had joined forces to attack Jinling and the 3 families, and they had made a lot of gains. Take Bai Choufei for example. The entertainment venues under the Clear Sky Association were all accepted by Bai Choufei. Just this alone had earned them at least 2 billion, not to mention the money from the 3 listed companies. Don't forget the person who dug the well when drinking water. Believe in the beginning and you will have eternal life. Tang Xiaoze said with a pious face. Tang Xiaoze also made about 1 billion, and this guy spent another 500 million to donate 2 temples. It was said that many of the Buddha statues were carved with reference to Jiang Tian's image. He combined his belief in Buddha and his belief in Master Kang's great cause into one. The other rich people also each had an income of 1 billion or 2 billion. It could be said that they were evenly distributed. Oh, that's good. Jiang Tian nodded and frowned slightly. There are still some materials in the backyard. Yi Gufeng stood up and pointed to the window as he reported. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and sighed. These materials are actually far from enough. It could be said that Jiang Tian was a little anxious. As his cultivation deepened, it became more and more difficult to break through and advance because he needed 10 times purer spirit qi of heaven and earth than before. Formations on the scale of the 5 elements spirit gathering formation and ordinary medicinal pills were useless to him. He still wanted to transform his physique and reconstruct his body, but such materials were not easy to obtain. The only way was to use a huge amount of formation materials to set up the hidden Dragon Mountain formation and condense the spirit qi of heaven and earth to forcefully break through. Moreover, this was also related to the cultivation progress of his grandfather, parents, and sister Ziwei. Time waits for no one. That's right, Master Kong. Actually, we have been collecting materials according to your orders since you took down the hidden Dragon Mountain. Seeing Jiang Tian's displeased expression, Bai Qiufei immediately became nervous. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said with a trembling voice, "This time, we have mobilized hundreds of people from the southern sects Feng Shui and Xianshu sects to visit all the major antique markets in the country. It can be said that we have turned the country upside down." Everyone present had a helpless look on their faces. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He knew that everyone had done their best. The manpower and material resources consumed were no small matter. However, it was the end of the Dharma age. Spirit qi was exhausted and cultivation resources were scarce. This was not something that could be controlled by manpower. At this moment, Taoist Master Red Leaf's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "Master Kong, everyone, we have overlooked something." "What?" Jiang Tian asked. "Our vision is too narrow." Taoist Master Red Leaf said, "Why do we only focus on Huaxia and ignore foreign countries?" "Foreign countries? Do other countries also have formation materials?" Everyone looked puzzled and confused. "I don't dare to say about other places, but in the Nanyang region, there should be a lot of formation materials." Red Leaf said, "Since Zheng He went to Nanyang, the Chinese have continued to go to Nanyang. And in the late Ming Dynasty, early Qing Dynasty, and the Republic of China, more and more Chinese fled to Nanyang to discuss their lives. According to statistics, there are millions, even tens of millions." He said leisurely, "These Chinese went to Nanyang and not only provided the local labor force, but they also brought a lot of Huaxia culture there, including the culture of Xianshu," he said with deep emotion. "The most important thing is that these places did not experience 10 years of turmoil, so their cultural heritage was preserved and continued. Therefore, they became the gathering place of Huaxia's Feng Shui and Xianshu. And in the local area, there are also Nanyang's 10 great evil arts, which form the fusion of Huaxia's Feng Shui and Nanyang's Xianshu. As a result, Singapore in Nanyang is called the capital of Xianshu." "Singapore? Singapore?" Jiang Tian asked. That's right. Even Hong Kong's Xianshu is much more prosperous than the mainland. For example, Sima Zhai can drink and chat with Hong Kong's chief executive. He's very valued." Huang Wentao added. "At the end of every year, Singapore will hold a global Xianshu exchange. There are all kinds of Dharma instruments and materials," Red Leaf said. Hong Yi said with a yearning look on her face. "If we go to Singapore at that time, we will definitely make a profit." That's a good idea." Jiang Tian's eyes lit up. He nodded and said, "You can go there first to gather information. If you find something suitable by it, I will go there too." "Yes." The few of them answered in unison. "By the way, is there any news about the D-daughter flower?" Jiang Tian looked at everyone and asked. "Not yet." Everyone shook their heads. "We must find the D-daughter flower as soon as possible. This is more urgent than me setting up the Dragon Mountain formation." Jiang Tian frowned and said, "What are you doing? A bunch of idiots." "We understand. Master Kong, please don't be angry. We will do it as soon as possible." Everyone stood up and bowed. Jiang Tian sent all the materials for the formation to Dragon Mountain Formation. With the help of Red Leaf and the others, he set up the formation base. The missing materials were temporarily left aside. After that, many Xianshu experts from Lingnan went to Singapore to gather information and gather the materials for the formation. One day, Jiang Tian was inspecting and adjusting the formation at Dragon Mountain Formation. Yi Ziwei called to inform him that Chen Jinming had finished his work and was about to leave Huaxia for America. Chen Jinming has put in a lot of effort this time. We must treat him well, Jiang Tian said with a smile. That's true. During the financial war, Chen Jinming worked overtime every night and lost 5 or 6 kilograms. Yi Ziwei smiled. Jiang Tian heard Jiang Lin interject. The Sky Spa on Mingyue Mountain is not bad. There's food, drinks, and entertainment. You can also soak in the hot springs to relieve your tiredness. Invite him there. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Heh, aren't you just trying to show off your good figure to seduce Chen Jinming to confess to you? During this period, Jiang Tian had also noticed that Chen Jinming's feelings for Jiang Lin were not ordinary. Now that he was about to leave Jinling, if he did not confess now, when would he? Someone else might beat him to it. Bah, nothing good comes out of your mouth. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Lin blushed and spat. Very soon, the matter was settled. Jiang Tian suddenly had an idea and called Zhen Shuai. Zhen Shuai, pick up Guang Su and go to the Sky Spa on Mingyue Mountain tonight to send Chen Jinming off. After all, the 4 of them had grown up together and were very close. It would be inappropriate to not tell them about Chen Jinming's return. Chen Jinming is back? This was the first time Zhen Shuai had heard the news. He was shocked and then said sourly, Jiang, you're too mean. You didn't even say hello to me when he came back. Are you still my brother? After Jiang Tian beat up Nie Feng and scared Yu Chang, Zhen Shuai began to pay attention to and research Jiang Tian's news. Only then did he realize that Jiang Tian was already the crown prince of the Medicine King group. Later, when the Jiang family of Jinling defeated the 3 big families of Jinling, he was so shocked that he almost fell over. He was naturally happy that his brother was awesome, but now, he could feel the distance between him and Jiang Tian, and he felt a little uncomfortable. Jinming hasn't left the house since he came back. He's been working. Jiang Tian explained with a wry smile. Sky Spa on Mingyue Mountain? I'm familiar with it. Okay, I'll book a private room in a hotel first. I'll pick you up. Zhen Shuai did not waste time and hung up the phone. In the evening, he brought Tan Guangxu to the entrance of the villa on Fulong Mountain. Chapter 257. Jiang Tian, what's going on with you? You've become a migrant worker? Zhen Shuai was dumbfounded. Jiang Tian, you're just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Tan Guangxu looked deeply at Jiang Tian and smiled. In fact, he still couldn't believe it. It felt like a dream. How powerful were the 3 great clans? Compared to them, the Jiang family was like a little white rabbit in front of 3 ferocious tigers and wolves. However, the Jiang family forcefully counterattacked and defeated the 3 great clans completely. And now, Jiang Tian was no longer that useless hedonistic son of a rich family. Instead, he was the crown prince of the Medicine King group. He could only hope that the relationship between brothers wouldn't change. Jiang Tian had been setting up arrays these days. He was dressed like a migrant worker. He was wearing blue overalls, a safety helmet, and many mud spots on his trousers. Under normal circumstances, Jiang Tian would go back to the villa in the city to change his clothes at night. But today, time was a little tight. Moreover, he had already changed into his swimsuit at the hot spring, so he was too lazy to change. So be it. Let's go. Jiang Tian opened the car door and smiled lazily. Aren't we going to pick up Chen Jinming? Zhen Shuai asked. Jiang Lin and Ziwei will send him over. Let's meet at the clubhouse. Jiang Tian smiled. Damn, I remember that Chen Jinming has always liked Jiang Lin. He won't make a move on her, right? Zhen Shuai started the car and smiled evilly. Guangxu, you have no hope. He's a big boss on Wall Street. Jiang Lin is now the vice president of the Medicine King group. I'm just a small cadre. How would I dare to think about her? Tan Guangshu wanted to cry. But it seems like you have no chance. You're about to get engaged. This time, Uncle Jiang was transferred to the provincial investment bank and transferred you to be his personal secretary. That's also a divisional cadre. Zhen Shuai drove the car quickly and smiled. Give me some business in the future. Let me make a small fortune. Uncle Jiang is very strict. He told me to stay away from those shady bosses. Tan Guangshu said seriously. What the hell? How am I indecent? I'm just seriously hurting people, okay? Zhen Shuai was so angry that his nose was crooked. Looking at the laughter and bickering of their childhood, Jiang Tian's face revealed a rare trace of warmth. It had been a long time. Soon, the group arrived at Mingyue Mountain Hot Spring Town. This place was located in the eastern suburbs of Jinling, within the boundaries of Mingyue Town. Mingyue Town was a county-level city, and it was also an old town. There were many buildings from the Ming and Qing dynasties, and they were all antique. Now that the Mingyue Mountain Hot Springs had been developed, it was even more crowded. The three of them quickly entered a star-rated clubhouse called Emperor International, where they ate, drank, and played. Emperor International was famous in Jinling. It had 7 or 8 branches. Jiang Tian had been there a few times before, but he didn't expect it to open in Mingyue Town. In the resplendent and brightly lit hall, Zhen Shuai found the store manager and said, "Director Yang, I made a reservation in advance." He then gave out his phone number. "Oh, isn't this young Master Jiang? Young Master Jiang hasn't taken care of my business in a long time." Jiang Tian was hesitating whether or not he should change locations. He knew that there was a paid escort service in this kind of place, and he didn't want to meet with a few childhood friends in this kind of dirty place. Suddenly, the female store manager opposite him looked at Jiang Tian. She was slightly stunned at first, and then said coquettishly. Jiang Tian looked at her carefully and couldn't help but bitterly smile. Fine, he couldn't be serious even if he wanted to. Jiang Tian remembered that the girl in front of him used to be the public relations manager of Emperor International. She wasn't the hostess in the private room, nor was she the hostess of the hostess. Instead, she was a marketing staff in the marketing department of Emperor International. She had the title of public relations manager, and she was responsible for attracting and protecting customers. It could be considered a serious job. Although Emperor International didn't do serious business, it showed that they had a higher management level than almost all the restaurants in Jinling City. The young girl was wearing a black business suit and a white shirt with a large lapel collar. She wasn't very tall, but she was wearing a pair of black high-heel shoes. She was about 1.7 meters tall. She walked gracefully and was quite flirtatious. Her face was white and she was a very tasteful and beautiful woman. Although this kind of woman was a normal and clean professional woman, it was inevitable that she would be more amorous than ordinary women when working in this kind of place. According to Jiang Tian's temper in his previous life, he was very willing to spend time and effort to eat this kind of woman. Jiang Tian remembered that in his previous life, he had wanted to lay his hands on this woman several times in Emperor International's Jiangning District Rainbow Avenue store. Especially after he received the order from his grandfather to stay away from trouble in Linzhou, he became even more depressed and abandoned all restraint. His hands had touched this woman several times. Although she had pushed Jiang Tian away, she did not seem to reject him firmly. Jiang Tian secretly thought that it was fortunate that he was strictly controlled by his grandfather. The few times he went in and out of Emperor International were just for show. It seemed that he didn't mess around too much. However, the current Jiang Tian had lived 2 lives and returned from 10,000 years of cultivation. His mind was calm and his heart was firm. Naturally, he wouldn't have any romantic thoughts about this woman. He couldn't even remember her name. So Jiang Tian and Manager Yang are old friends. I was worried that you wouldn't like this place. Zhen Shuai winked and whispered, "You're really a shady boss?" Jiang Tian rolled his eyes at him. Yang Lily looked at Jiang Tian from head to toe and smiled with slight disdain. "Young Master Jiang, what's wrong with you? You're already working as a laborer. Why are you dressed so shabbily?" Now that our renovation service has been upgraded, we have a top-notch private room. It costs 30,000 a night. Can you still afford it? Young Lily didn't have a good impression of the frivolous Jiang Tian. He always touched her and didn't really spend money. Now that she saw him dressed like a laborer, she looked down on him and couldn't help but express her dissatisfaction. Which private room? Jiang Tian frowned slightly, but didn't bother to answer her. He looked at Zhen Shuai and asked. Seeing that Jiang Tian was unhappy and Young Lily's attitude wasn't good, Zhen Shuai didn't waste time and quickly said, "The dreamy token? All right, let's go." Jiang Tian said faintly. Young Lily saw that Jiang Tian ignored her and could not help feeling angry in her heart. She sneered and said, "The dreamlike tokens box room fee is over 20,000. Can you afford it with your beggar-like appearance? If you can't afford it, I'll have to call the security to kick you out." She was sarcastic and unkind. The essence of a heartless bitch and a heartless actor was portrayed by her. "Do I know you? If I have anything to say to you, I can only say that I'm sorry. My eyesight was too bad back then." Jiang Tian turned around and glanced at her. His eyes were indifferent. "Look at your short figure. You're like the bark of a 3-inch tree." Young Lily was so angry that she almost fainted from Jiang Tian's words. She mocked, Don't act like you're some big shot. You're like a beggar, and you're not embarrassed to come here and eat." "I'll eat whatever I want." Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back. He coldly said, "You should know your own status. You're here to serve me. To put it bluntly, you're nothing more than a servant. Be careful or your boss will slap you if he finds out that you're disrespectful to a customer." "Serve you? You think you're worthy of being served by me?" Young Lily was so angry that she was stunned. Seeing Jiang Tian enter the private room under the guidance of the waiter, she couldn't help but snort and leave in a huff. Almost at the same time, another group of people entered the hall. Under the escort of a group of wealthy and respectable middle-aged men, a handsome and charming young man walked in with large strides. Young Lily's eyes immediately lit up. She walked over and bowed. Her face was full of joy as she said, "Young Master Bai, you've finally come. I'll have young Master Lei bring young Master Yu Chang and young Miss Su down to welcome you." "Forget it, don't make a big fuss. Let's go up directly. I'm only here to discuss business," Bai Qiufei said with a gentle smile. "All right, please follow me." Young Lily revealed a flattering smile. She bowed and made a gesture of invitation. She obediently led the way in front. This was Bai Qiufei, Yang Cheng's first-tier young master. It was rumored that he had recently become the godlike Master Kong. He had conquered many cities in Jinling and dominated a region. Now, they had defeated the Nye family's Clear Sky Club and could stand shoulder to shoulder with Su Ruoqing. Now, all the entertainment venues around Bright Moon Town were under his control. Even Lei Ming, the boss of Emperor International, had to seek his protection, rely on him, and act according to his mood. Today, Lei Gang invited Bai Qiufei to a meal because he wanted to curry favor with him and get a chance to survive. They walked into the private room. After a while, Yi Ziwei, Jiang Lin, and Chen Jinming also arrived. Everyone knew each other. They didn't talk about work and only talked about the interesting things from their childhood. Soon they got along well. At this time, the dishes were served. A waiter brought over a plate of steamed sea bass and said in a sweet voice, "Everyone, please enjoy." Jiang Tian was in the middle of a drinking contest with Zhen Shuai. When he heard this voice, his heart trembled and his body stiffened. When he turned around, he saw Huang Linger, who was wearing the club's red vest uniform, serving the dishes. Huang Linger also looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. She didn't know why, but she felt that Jiang Tian was very familiar. Her heart ached and she felt very uncomfortable. Her nose twitched and her tears almost fell. Her mind was in turmoil. Her hand trembled and a mouthful of soup spilled on Jiang Tian's trousers. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I can compensate you." Huang Linger had her hair tied up in a cute bun. Although the red vest and trousers were of poor quality, it still couldn't hide her slender and graceful figure. Seeing that she had caused trouble, her pretty face turned pale. She kept bowing and apologizing. She was so anxious that tears almost fell. It's okay. Go to your work. Jiang Tian waved his hand without batting an eyelid as he grabbed a tissue to wipe off the oil stains. He waited for her to leave. Yi Ziwei looked at Jiang Tian in surprise and whispered, "That's strange. Why doesn't she recognize you?" Jiang Tian poked his head out and explained. Yi Ziwei was even more in disbelief. She said in shock, "You can do that?" Then she sighed sadly and said, "That's good too. It's good for her, Qing, and you, why would she work in a place like this?" Jiang Tian frowned. He felt a little uncomfortable. Although he didn't have any plans to continue his relationship with Huang Linger, he still hoped that she could have a happy life. He didn't want her to suffer. Huang Zhihui had won the Nobel Prize in Medicine this year. The prize money was in the millions. His salary wasn't low either. There was also a commission from the patent fees. His income this year was no less than 10 million. He heard that Huang Zhihui had already bought a big villa and a BMW. Huang Linger had enough of being a pampered lady. Why would she need to work in such a dirty place? "I'll ask Huang Zhihui." Yi Ziwei immediately called Huang Zhihui. Chapter 258. Moments later, she hung up the phone and said softly, "Huang Linger is really stubborn." She had received her graduation certificate from the pharmaceutical university in July. She had applied for a job at the Medicine King Group and the Fersky Laboratory, but she had asked her father not to look for anyone. She also did not mention her relationship with Professor Huang Zhihui, so no one knew. In the second round, she was eliminated. She's also an independent person. She didn't want to be a freeloader at home, so she insisted on coming out to work. "Oh, I see," Jiang Tian nodded and said softly, "How about this? Get the HR department to give her a call and ask her to stay by your side. I'll be more at ease then." "Sure." The herbal field in Mount Fulong is still lacking a person in charge. This girl seems to be a smart person, and she's also a pharmacist. Yi Ziwei nodded and said. She sympathized with Huang Linger. She heard from Huang Zhihui that even though Jiang Tian had erased her memory, she was still unable to fall for other guys. Countless young men pursued her, but she didn't care about them. When her parents urged her, she even got into a fight with Huang Zhihui and his wife. Perhaps it was because her parents urged her to get married that she came to Bright Moon Town to work and eat and live here. Yi Ziwei sighed in her heart. Meeting Jiang Tian was her fortune, but it was also her misfortune. Meeting Jiang Tian really ruined her life. "Linger, come here." The moment Huang Linger came out of the room, she was called to a changing room on the 5th floor by the head waitress of the entertainment department. The head waitress threw her a low-cut princess dress and said, "Linger, young Master Lei asked for your service. He's in the room on the 5th floor. Hurry over." "Head waitress, I can't go. I'm a waitress in the restaurant." Huang Linger's heart clenched as she cried out with a pale face. This is Manager Yang's idea. The female manager wore an off-the-shoulder evening gown that revealed her cleavage. She was covered in dust as she impatiently knitted her brows and coldly said, "If you don't go, then you can wait to be fired." "I don't need you to fire me. I quit." Huang Linger took off her uniform and walked out of the door. What kind of attitude is this? The forewoman was also confused by her cold and stern refusal. For a moment, he didn't know whether he should persuade her or let her leave. He just stood there in a daze. I've invited you time and time again, but you're unmoved. You won't even give me this little face?" Huang Linger walked to the door. Suddenly, a tall figure blocked Huang Linger's way and blocked her. Lei Gang walked into the dressing room with a gloomy face as he grinned. "I heard that you sold yourself when you were in college, and now you're pretending to be pure in front of me? Do you think you are a princess? Get out of the way." Huang Linger angrily said, "Let me out." Lei Gang took out a sealed banknote from his small bag. There were at least tens of thousands of banknotes. Then he raised his hand and slapped Huang Linger's face. He proudly said, "Accompany me once and this 10,000 is yours. I have plenty of money." The new banknotes were as sharp as a knife. When they hit Huang Linger's face, they actually left a bloody mark on her face. "What are you looking at? Get out of here." Lei Gang directly threw the banknotes at the forewoman's face. The forewoman didn't dare to let out a fart. She obediently walked out and closed the door. Lei Gang unbuckled his belt and approached Huang Linger. He sneered and said, "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. See if I don't change 18 different postures to fuck you, little bitch." Huang Linger covered her face and retreated step by step. Her eyes were filled with panic as she loudly said, "Don't come over. If you come over, I'll call for help. Save me. Help." However, the changing room was originally in a corner, and the music was deafening, so no one heard her voice. Outside the door, the forewoman walked to young Lily and said gloomily, "Do you want to persuade her? She doesn't want to get into the water. Can't young Master Lei do it when she has changed her mind? Can you persuade her?" Lei Gang's father, Lei Ming, is a martial artist. He is very famous in Jin City and no one dares to mess with him around Mingyue Mountain. Young Lily leaned against the wall and took a puff of her cigarette. She said indifferently, "It's fine if he doesn't do it. He just needs to throw some money at her and everything will be settled. This saves us the trouble of persuading Huang Linger to get into the water. This girl's ideological work is really not easy to do. You're right. This girl is too stubborn. Last time, a boss bought her virginity for $1 million and she was willing to do it." The forewoman said gloomily, "Damn, why did he come up here? Damn, I'm screwed." All of a sudden, young Lily was shocked and screamed out loud. Jiang Tian rushed towards the changing room and kicked the door open. Then he saw Lei Gang crash through the door and fall out miserably. Young Lily ran over and was scared out of her wits. Lei Gang was leaning against the wall. He was gasping for air but not breathing in. Blood was spurting out of his mouth, and a large part of his sternum had caved in. His bones had been broken, and he was lying on the ground like a dead dog. Young Lily was shocked. The Lei family was one of the most powerful families in Jin City. Now that Lei Gang was beaten up in her family's territory, she would be in deep trouble if they pursued the matter. "Jiangtan, how dare you beat up young Master Lei? You're not allowed to leave." Young Lily was so angry that she was trembling. She gritted her teeth and pointed at Jiang Tian. "How dare you block my way? You want to die?" Slap. Jiang Tian did not say anything and gave her a big slap. She flew out of the room. "Don't cry. Your eyes won't look good if you continue to cry." Jiang Tian gently wiped the tears on Huang Linger's cheeks. He was full of guilt. He heard Lei Gang's words. Was she going to bear the curse of being his contracted lover for the rest of her life? This made her seem like a broken rose, and any crazy bees and butterflies would rush over to take advantage of her. Huang Linger still could not remember the past with Jiang Tian. However, deep in her heart, she felt that the man in front of her was someone she could rely on. He could protect her. She wanted to be strong, but she could not suppress the fear and grievance in her heart. She threw herself into Jiang Tian's arms and cried, it's okay. Come with me." Jiang Tian held the girl's waist and walked downstairs. After such a shock, she felt more at ease being away from the scene. Moreover, he was very angry. He was worried that he would not be able to control himself and kill Lei Gang in front of everyone. "Jiang Tian, you're in trouble. You're not allowed to leave. Today, you have to give the Lei family an explanation." Young Lily crawled up and stared at Jiang Tian. She did not care about the pain on her face. She signaled the security guards not to act rashly. "Trouble? You call this trouble? Ask Lei Ming to come and see me. I'm going to kill his entire family today." Jiang Tian slowly turned around and looked at the angry young Lily. He smiled coldly. At that moment, Jiang Tian changed his mind. It seemed that the Lei family was used to bullying people in Jinling. How could such a family be allowed to exist? He might as well kill them all. "What did you say?" Young Lily could not believe it. She was uneasy and confused. What was Jiang Tian relying on? How could he ignore the powerful family behind Lei Gang? That was the Lei family. Hurry up and call Lei Ming to come and die. After looking at young Lily coldly, Jiang Tian suddenly raised his foot and stepped on Lei Gang's knee. In an instant, Lei Gang's knee let out a cracking sound while he screamed miserably. Blood gushed out, and the broken bone pierced through his flesh, revealing the white stubble underneath. Lei Gang screamed until he was hoarse, but his voice gradually became softer. In the end, he fell silent and fainted from the pain. At that moment, Yi Ziwei and the others rushed over. When they saw Huang Linger's shirt buttons were broken and her clothes were disheveled, they understood what had happened. "Don't be afraid. Sister and Jiang Tian are here." Yi Ziwei took off her little windbreaker and put it on Huang Linger. "Linger, let Sister Ziwei send you back first. I'll take care of the rest." Jiang Tian held the girl's tear-stained face and comforted her gently. The Taichu Celestial Lord, who used to think that his Tao heart was firm and cold, finally realized that he was afraid of the woman he cared about. A beauty's tears would always be a pain in a man's heart. Even though he had cultivated for 10,000 years, he still couldn't avoid it. He was now wondering if it was a mistake to abandon Huang Linger. If he gave her a status, who would dare to touch her? "I'm not leaving. Don't abandon me." Huang Linger quickly shook her head. Tears flowed down her face. She pulled Jiang Tian's hand and looked up at Jiang Tian's eyes. She wanted to say something, but she didn't. She didn't know why, but she felt that the man in front of her was very familiar. It was as if he was a piece of flesh in her heart, connected by blood. Once he left, she would feel heart-wrenching pain. Only when she was by his side did she feel an indescribable sense of security. It was as if no terrifying existence could hurt her. Two Audis surrounded a Mercedes-Benz S600 in front and behind. They blocked the main entrance of Emperor International arrogantly. Immediately, a series of muffled sounds came from the doors of the three cars. The noise in the night seemed to stagnate, and all the passers-by retreated. More than 10 burly men got out of the cars and surrounded a medium-sized man with murderous intent. The man had a flat head, a broad face, bald eyebrows, and big triangular eyes. He looked ferocious. At this time, his face was full of anger. He could probably scare a 3- or 4-year-old child to tears. A group of people rushed into the hall. When the 20 welcoming girls in red cheongsam on both sides of the hall saw clearly who was coming, they all showed fear and nervousness on their faces with heavy makeup. They bowed in awe and only dared to stand up straight after the group of people had walked far away. They secretly sighed in relief. They were terrified because the man in the center was Lei Gang's father, Lei Ming. Jinling martial arts were not popular. Except for Su Jinlei, who was in seclusion, the most powerful martial artist was Lei Ming, the blast fist master. He had many disciples, each with a huge industry. In Jinling, especially in the Bright Moon Town, he was a strong man who meant what he said. Moreover, he was also the boss of the Emperor Club. His assets were hundreds of millions. Usually, he used money to open the way to get to know high-ranking officials and nobles. Relying on his powerful skills and background, he bullied men and women and did all kinds of evil. The number of innocent women he harmed was at least 80 if not 100. The corridor facing the dressing room was almost like a long corridor in a European palace. It was carpeted and there were several pairs of large celadone vases on both sides. It was not narrow, but dozens of people gathered together to watch the fun, so the corridor was a little crowded. Messy but powerful footsteps came. People subconsciously looked back and then gasped. They stood on both sides of the corridor and tried their best to make way. They didn't dare to breathe. Lei Ming walked all the way. He was domineering and awe-inspiring, like a local emperor. The proud man walked to the end of the corridor and saw the miserable appearance of his only son. He was silent for a moment with a gloomy face. Suddenly, he turned to stare at Jiang Tian, gritted his teeth and smiled. "Boy, you dare to touch my son. You have guts." Chapter 259. On the floor, Lei Gang's body was curled up like a dying man. The pain caused him to faint on the spot. Because he was unlucky enough to be lying next to Jiang Tian's feet, no one dared to help him. Jiang Tian easily defeated the notorious Lei Gang. Obviously, his gang of scoundrels who liked to bully others with their power were frightened. It wasn't that these men weren't fierce people who dared to fight, it was that they understood one thing. Provoking someone who was above their level would not end well. Lei Gang's martial arts were excellent. His fists could crush rocks, but he was no match for Jiang Tian. It was obvious that this brat also had some martial arts skills. Master Lei, you are finally here. You can't blame me for what happened today. I couldn't even stop him. The ambulance and the police arrived one after another. Yang Lily rubbed her swollen face that was slapped by Jiang Tian. Everyone clearly viewed Jiang Tian, who had injured Huang Linger, as their number one enemy. They completely ignored the fact that Lei Gang wanted to force Huang Linger. Chief Huang, you have to arrest this brat for me. It's best if you kill him in the police station. Lei Ming whispered fiercely to the police chief who was leading the team. Lei Gang's despicable behavior had spread throughout Jinling. How could Lei Ming not know about it? It was probably because they were a family of birds of a feather that they were used to bullying others. They used their despicable behavior as a way to show off their status and privilege. As for Chief Huang, although he was wearing a police uniform, he was already in cahoots with him. He was just a dog raised by him. Bastard, you want to arrest me? Looking at Lei Ming's aggressive manner, Jiang Tian was so angry that he laughed. His face was full of arrogance and disdain. He still dares to laugh. He really doesn't know what death is. Master Lei is the king of Mingyue Town. Not many people in Jinling dare to offend him. Just wait and see, he will definitely die today. Some of the rich young masters and rich bosses looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at an idiot. They whispered and discussed. However, he didn't know that in Jiang Tian's eyes, Lei Ming wasn't even a local snake. At most, he was just a bug. Fighting and injuring people in public? Do you still have any respect for the law? Superintendent Huang wore his police cap askew, his slippers were sloppy, and he didn't even tuck his uniform into his trousers. He just swaggered over, his breath reeking of alcohol. He tilted his head and looked at Jiang Tian, shouting loudly. Scram! Jiang Tian snorted with disdain in his eyes. Without saying a word, he slapped him across the face. With a shrill scream, Superintendent Huang was sent flying like a scarecrow. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Towards such an insignificant ant, Jiang Tian did not need to waste words at all. He could just directly slap it away. How lawless! How dare he attack the police? Just kill him. Lei Ming laughed sinisterly and roared loudly, signaling the police to kill Jiang Tian on the spot. Squat down. Otherwise, we will take action. A few police officers also sensed the danger. They pulled out their pistols and batons and pointed them at Jiang Tian, threatening him fiercely. You are Lei Ming? In response, Jiang Tian's expression didn't change. He looked at Lei Ming indifferently and said, Get out of Jinling immediately. From now on, don't let me see you in Jinling. Who do you think you are? See if I don't cripple you today. Lei Ming was so angry that he almost fainted. Who in Jinling would dare to talk to him like this? It's over. Master Lei is going to make a move. It would be weird if he doesn't kill this kid. Yeah, I heard that Master Lei is a martial arts expert. In Jinling, only Su Jinlei can suppress him. This kid still dares to talk nonsense. What a pretentious prick. Isn't he afraid of being struck to death by lightning? Many people gloated and talked among themselves. They looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a dead man. Humph, a trash like a beggar dares to behave atrociously in Emperor International. You must be tired of living. Yang Lily was very unhappy with Jiang Tian. She crossed her arms and raised her chin arrogantly. She didn't want to see Jiang Tian's miserable ending. Sure enough, Lei Ming rolled up his sleeves and rushed toward Jiang Tian. It seemed that the fight was about to start. But at this moment, a domineering shout came, Lei Ming, are you tired of living? Everyone turned their heads to look and saw a group of young men with extraordinary bearings escorting an elegant man as they walked over quickly. The man in the lead was wearing a custom-made shirt and trousers from an old Italian tailor and pointed European-style leather shoes. He was tall and straight, with a handsome face. As he walked, he exuded a powerful aura, which could even suppress Lei Ming. In particular, he exuded a noble and domineering aura, as if he was a heavenly noble. This kind of aura could only be cultivated by a rich and powerful family. It couldn't be faked even if one wanted to. Oh, it's the young master of Yang City, Bai Qiufei, the boss of Tiange Entertainment. I heard that Gu Jihua and Li Huiyan are artists under his banner. He even has a scandal with Gu Jihua. Even the young master of Jinling, Yu Chang, and the underground world's queen, Su Ruoqing, can only follow behind him. His strength is too great. At this moment, many girls present cast admiring gazes toward the man in the lead. Young Master Bai is really domineering. Since he's here, Jiang Tian will have to kneel down. Yang Lily also looked at Bai Qiufei with a face full of adoration, her eyes burning. Women all longed for the protection of the strong. Unfortunately, at her level, she didn't have the qualifications and opportunity to climb into Bai Qiufei's bed. Bai Qiufei, who had a powerful aura, walked forward as if there was no one around him. The people who were originally blocking his way were frightened like birds by the twang of a bow. The scene of teasing little brats in gangster movies was vividly presented in front of everyone's eyes. Young Master Bai is here. The crowd immediately became restless. Countless people stretched their necks and widened their eyes, afraid to miss this rare scene. When Lei Ming saw him come over, he was so scared that his whole body trembled. He hurriedly took small steps forward, nodding and bowing as he said, "Young Master Bai, why didn't you tell me you were coming over to play? I could have accompanied you." It was said that martial artists had a transcendent status, but it also depended on the specific level. Sometimes, in front of money and power, it was difficult to avoid this custom. Now that Bai Qiufei and Su Ruoqing had joined hands to control Jinling, Lei Ming only had a few big cats under him. They couldn't be compared to him at all. What was even more frightening was that Bai Qiufei also cooperated with the legendary Master Kong to defeat the Nie family and the other two great families, becoming the right-hand man of the famous Master Kong of Jinling. Lei Ming was even more afraid of him and could only look up to him. Now, Lei Ming had already given up Bright Moon Town to Bai Qiufei, only asking him to introduce him to Master Kong. At this moment, Yang Lily looked back at Jiang Tian, only to see that Jiang Tian was still calm and unruffled, his expression calm. But could it be that he isn't scared? Or is it that he can't even reach Bai Qiufei's level? She inwardly despised him, mocking and ridiculing him, but she was also extremely bewildered. However, the following scene quickly gave Yang Lily an answer. Bai Qiufei and Yu Chang ignored the shocked gazes around them, quickly walking up to Jiang Tian. They bowed respectfully, shouting with the most respectful tone they had ever used in their lives, "Young Master Jiang. Master Kong." Their voices weren't loud or soft, but for the surrounding people, it was no different from a deafening muffled thunder, shaking them until they trembled in fear, their brains short-circuiting. "Jiang. Master Kong." Lei Ming's entire body trembled, his expression suddenly changing, becoming as ugly could be, alternating between green and white, his expression extremely brilliant. Jiang Tian only expressionlessly nodded, his clear eyes filled with boundless arrogance, disinclined to even greet them. Meanwhile, Bai Qiufei and Yu Chang didn't have any complaints, tactfully standing behind Jiang Tian, willing to play supporting roles. Even the slowest person could figure out what was going on. Tonight's true main character, the true superior, was that youth who had been scolded by some people for acting pretentious and acting recklessly. It really was quite dramatic. Yang Lily hurriedly covered her mouth, almost crying out in alarm. It could be said that she had just witnessed the most inconceivable scene in her 20-something years of life. Young Master Jiang. When this seemingly overflowing title came from the mouth of such a flashy and valiant man like Bai Qiufei, it condensed an incomparable shocking force. This was 1,000 times more shocking than Jiang Tian beating up Lei Ming's son in public. Even with Yang Lily's vast life experience, she couldn't imagine just how great of a background one had to be to make Bai Qiufei, this kind of top-class young master, act so lowly like an ox or a horse's lackey. "Young Master Jiang, did someone provoke you?" When Bai Qiufei came downstairs, he already saw Lei Ming and the others hooting at Jiang Tian. He narrowed his cold eyes, looking at the stupefied Lei Ming. Lei Ming shuddered, frozen in place, not knowing what to do. The group of attendants and several police officers behind him all withered. They couldn't imagine how serious the consequences of offending someone who could make Bai Chofei and Yu Chang bow and scrape. Little Bai and Yu Chang, are you all blind? Jiang Tian's expression was displeased, disinclined to speak nonsense. Lei Ming and Superintendent Huang had to pay an extremely painful price with just a few words from him. This was the ability of a superior to call the clouds with a flip of the hand and the rain with a flip of the hand. Daring to provoke Master Kong, courting death. Su Ruoqing shouted, her charming face full of anger. Bai Chofei and Yu Chang looked at Lei Ming with increasingly cold eyes. Master Kong, I really didn't know it was you. Lei Ming's legs went soft, kneeling on the ground. Kill him. Jiang Tian transmitted his divine sense to Su Ruoqing and the others. He coldly glanced at Lei Ming, frowning in disgust. He had always looked down on men without backbone. Lei Ming, who bullied the weak and feared the strong, was he worthy of being called a martial artist? Moreover, from how Lei Gang forced Lin Manong, he could tell that Lei family wasn't anything good. Today, they did this again, so killing him definitely wasn't wrong. Disinclined to speak any more nonsense, Jiang Tian pulled Huang Linger and left. Meanwhile, Su Ruoqing and the others also began to clear the area. Superintendent Huang and the other police officers not only didn't stop them, they even helped. Everyone withdrew into the private room or scattered downstairs. Yang Lily had just walked to the stairs when she heard a miserable cry for mercy from behind her. She subconsciously turned around to take a look. She saw Su Ruoqing pull out a long blade like a magic trick, forcefully hacking down. With a light kacha sound, a wave of blood splashed onto the corridor walls. Lei Ming's head rolled to the ground, his headless corpse falling head first onto the floor. Kacha! Another snow-white cold light flashed down like lightning. This time, it was aimed at Lei Gang. Yang Lily's body shivered, not daring to look. She turned around, only to see Jiang Tian, who was hurrying down the stairs, his indifferent gaze shooting over. Chapter 260. At that moment, she felt as though she was being stared at by the Grim Reaper. Her entire body was cold, and her legs were like noodles. She couldn't even stand properly. She slipped and rolled down the stairs. Her head was bleeding and she screamed. Jiang Tian didn't give her a second look. Instead, he pulled Huang Linger out of the club and into the parking lot. Jinming, I'm sorry. I wanted to send you off. I didn't expect this to happen. Jiang Tian shook hands with Chen Jinming and apologized. We're brothers. You don't have to be so polite. Chen Jinming smiled, then looked at Jiang Tian seriously and said, Jiang Tian, thank you. You've brought me to a height that I can't imagine. You don't want me to be polite, but you're being polite again. That's your own ability. Jiang Tian patted him on the shoulder. But I'm sorry, I can't send you to the airport. Take care of your friend. She's scared out of her wits. Chen Jinming glanced at Huang Linger, then suddenly smiled proudly. Also, don't think too highly of yourself. I don't want you to send me off. Jiang Lin agreed to my pursuit. She'll send me off. Don't disturb us. What are you talking about? There's no time for us. Behind him, Jiang Lin was blushing. She pinched Chen Jinming, but her eyes were filled with tenderness and sweetness. She was very satisfied. I'm impressed by your ability to forget your friends. Jiang Tian gave him a thumbs up and praised him. Take care, brother. We'll work together again when we have time. I hope you have a baby soon. You have such a cheap mouth. Chen Jinming hugged Jiang Tian again, then walked away with Jiang Lin hand in hand. Looking at the two talking and laughing along the way, Jiang Tian suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. This was great. Don't work here in the future. Jiang Tian looked at Huang Linger and opened the car door. Huang Linger was stunned. My name is Yi Ziwei, the president of the Medicine King Group. You can report to the Human Resources Department tomorrow. Yi Ziwei handed over a business card and said with a smile. I'm going to work at Yawang Group tomorrow. Huang Linger was stunned at first, then she cheered and said happily, Wow, you're Yi Ziwei. I've heard Dad talk about you. I really admire you. No wonder he looked so familiar. I've watched your product launch many times. Get in the car. I'll send you back. Jiang Tian smiled. I came to your city and walked the path you took. I imagined how lonely you would be without me. Eason Chan's long time no see came through the campus broadcast system. The mellow background music and the soulful singing were particularly moving in the night. Two beautiful figures appeared in front of the library of the Jinling Pharmaceutical University, attracting the attention of many male students. Another person crashed into a tree. Is this the school that Jiang Tian studied at? One of them was about 25 or 26 years old. She was slim and wore a white windbreaker, black silk casual pants, and black high heels. Her black hair fell like a waterfall. Her skin was fair, and her eyes were bright and clear. She stared at the library building with a quiet and ethereal temperament. Sister, why didn't you tell brother-in-law that you came to Jinling? No one came to pick you up. My legs are tired from walking. The other girl looked similar to the former, but she was 2 or 3 years younger. She wore a red hoodie paired with low-waisted jeans and canvas shoes. She looked like a college student who had just graduated. She had an exquisite figure, but her beautiful eyes were lively. She was in high spirits as she looked around. It's a surprise for him. Also, I want to see the school that your brother-in-law studied at. Zhao Xueqing smiled. What's there to see? There's not a single handsome guy. Zhao Qianru curled her lips and then said dejectedly, also, compared to these young college students, I feel old. Zhao Xueqing was too lazy to care about her little emotions. She pulled a passing boy and said, Classmate, where is the Fersky laboratory? Oh, it's in the administrative building of the School of Chinese Medicine. Being asked for directions by such a stunning beauty, the student was flattered. His voice trembled and he quickly said, I happen to be free. I'll take you there. Then I'll have to trouble you. Zhao Xueqing nodded slightly politely. She was so beautiful that the student's soul almost flew away. No trouble, no trouble. Are you here to apply for a job or to participate in an academic exchange? The boy hurriedly led the way in front and then excitedly introduced, This laboratory is amazing. There's a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. Basically, the top pharmaceutical, biochemistry, and physics talents in Huaxia have been recruited. Is that so? Zhao Xueqing pursed her lips and smiled with gratification. She even felt a little proud. It seemed that Jiang Tian had really done well in the past 6 months. Of course. The boy said proudly, with just this laboratory, our school's pharmaceutical strength has ranked as the top medical school in Huaxia. Even the universities in Shuimu and Beijing are far behind. Soon, they arrived at the administrative building of the Chinese Medicine School. This was also where the Fersky laboratory was located. Zhao Xueqing looked up at the brightly lit laboratory and a sweet smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The boy introduced, the Medicine King Group relied on a few new drugs developed in this laboratory to fight back. Now, their market value has risen to 100 billion yuan. Amazing. Then do you know the founder of this laboratory? Zhao Xueqing asked with a sweet smile. If I didn't know, would I still be in this school? The boy smiled and said, Professor Jiang Tian. Speaking of which, he's my senior. He also taught in the school for half a year. His academic level is very high. None of the professors and academic leaders are unconvinced by him. He shook his head a little regretfully and said, It's a pity that he's no longer teaching. Otherwise, I would definitely be his doctoral student. The boy said with a look of admiration, I heard that Professor Jiang was also a bad student. He studied in the second-level Ren College and skipped classes every day. Later, he became a self-taught genius and became our guest professor. I was inspired by him and worked hard to catch up with him. That's how I got admitted to Professor Huang Zhihui's graduate student. I'm not qualified to enter the laboratory now. They only want doctoral students. However, I'll definitely be able to enter in the future. Speaking of this, the boy waved his fist heavily and cheered for himself. If I join the laboratory, I might be able to see Professor Jiang Tian. See? This is the dormitory building where Professor Jiang Tian lived in back then. The boy pointed to a dormitory building on the left and said, "The fourth floor, the third dormitory from the left. It's now preserved by the school as a historical relic. Many people visit it every day. This is the place where he lived. Can you bring me up to have a look?" Zhao Xueqing's mouth rippled with a faint smile. "No problem. The dormitory isn't closed yet." The boy immediately regarded the two girls as Professor Jiang Tian's admirers and excitedly went upstairs. There was a sign hanging at the door that said, "Professor Jiang Tian's dormitory." This is the bed where Professor Jiang Tian lived in back then. Everyone walked in. The boy pointed to a bed and said, "You guys take your time. I have to go back to the dormitory." There were some daily necessities symbolically placed in the dormitory, but there wasn't much life in it. However, in a few frames on the exhibition stand, there were some enlarged photos of Jiang Tian in university. There were photos of club activities on the court, and also photos of daily life. Most of them were group photos. They were probably collected from the same batch of alumni as Jiang Tian. Brother-in-law was so gloomy when he was young. His eyes were a little ruthless and he even had an afro. "I can't imagine." Zhao Qianru covered her mouth and chuckled. At that time, Jiang Tian lacked the companionship and control of his parents. His character was eccentric and rebellious. He wasn't very likable. Of course, he was also hated by everyone in the family. Even in school, he wasn't popular. No one looked up to him. In those photos, he was often at the edge of the crowd and was drowned out. He seemed to be aware of this alienated interpersonal relationship. His gaze was stubborn and lonely as he looked at the camera. He was like a small beast that had been attacked and was on high alert. At that time, he should have been suppressed in the family. "It's a pity that I didn't meet him in advance and accompany him." Zhao Xueqing smiled and her gaze gently swept across those photos. "Sigh, but there's a girl who appears a little frequently." Zhao Qianru suddenly pointed to a little girl with a cute bun in the photo and smiled. Could it be brother-in-law's girlfriend back then? In the photo, Huang Linger was holding Jiang Tian's arm and leaning her head on Jiang Tian's shoulder. She smiled sweetly and looked at the camera with a little shyness. "It's possible." Zhao Xueqing stretched out her slender fingers and stroked Huang Linger in the photo. She smiled and said, "When your brother-in-law was young, he was very popular with girls. Little sister, how are you? Long time no see." Under the light, her snow-white hands sparkled as if they were translucent. However, her fingertips were badly mutilated and there were some scars. "Sister, aren't you nervous?" Zhao Qianru rolled her eyes at her sister and frowned. "This little hussy might have slept with my brother-in-law." "Girl, you're talking nonsense. Are you a girl? Be careful that you won't be able to get married in the future." Zhao Xueqing glared at her and then touched Huang Linger's face in the photo. She smiled and said, "I should thank her. She was the one who accompanied Jiang Tian when he was lonely. I'm the one who came later." "Sister, you're so magnanimous." Zhao Qianru was speechless. "Ouch, it hurts." Suddenly, Zhao Xueqing cried out in pain. "Sister, are your fingers hurting again?" Zhao Qianru quickly took out the ointment and applied it on her sister. She said with heartache, "You have to play that white 8-bone zither every day in Linzhou and your fingers are bleeding. If brother-in-law sees this, his heart will definitely ache." "Your brother-in-law said that if I can play the white 8-bone zither, it means that I can use my cultivation." Zhao Xueqing said gently, "Your brother-in-law spent a lot of effort to create the 5-element spirit convergence array. I can't let him down. I must become a woman who can stand side by side with him. Not a delicate flower in a greenhouse who is protected by him." "All right, let's go to the classroom and take a look at the place where brother-in-law taught back then." Zhao Qianru said in her heart that her sister was really infatuated with brother-in-law. She pulled her sister out of the door. At this time, the two girls still didn't know that Jiang Tian and Huang Linger had already returned to the pharmaceutical university. Would they say, "Long time no see," to each other or Mars colliding with Earth? Chapter 261. Jiang Tian drove Huang Linger home. Along the way, Huang Linger wanted to say something but hesitated. She kept stealing glances at Jiang Tian's side profile. You and my dad know each other, right? When they were almost at school, Huang Linger finally couldn't hold back. She frowned and asked, You seem to have taught in the pharmaceutical university before? Yes. My name is Jiang Tian. I'm the person in charge of the Medicine King Group's laboratory. I used to work with your dad for a while. You can call me Teacher Jiang. I know it's you. However, I seem to have met you even earlier than that. It seems like we are very familiar with each other. Huang Linger lowered her head and frowned. She said with a distressed face, But I don't seem to remember it. What's wrong with my head? Whenever I think about it, I get a headache. Jiang Tian felt a throbbing pain in his heart. However, he pretended to be relaxed and said, Maybe I have a common face. No, it's not like that. Huang Linger shook her head violently. Then, she lowered her head and covered her face with her hands. She said with a trembling voice, It's not like that. Something must have happened between us. But I really can't remember. Don't think too much. Jiang Tian sighed helplessly. It seemed that her memory was too deep. Even his divine sense couldn't be completely erased. In the future, he had to stay away from her. Otherwise, she might remember it. However, today's incident was really sudden. He had to appear. Maybe I remembered wrongly. Huang Linger sighed in distress. She looked at the blurred lights outside the window and gradually calmed down. Jiang Tian parked the car at the school gate. He bypassed the library and walked toward the staff residence on the side of the campus. It was already 11 o'clock at night. The campus was very quiet. Leaves fell from the trees from time to time. The street lamps sprinkled bright yellow light, enveloping the two people walking silently. Put it on. Seeing that she seemed a little cold, Jiang Tian took off his short windbreaker and put it on her shoulders. Thank you, Professor Jiang. Huang Linger smiled sweetly. You're welcome. Teacher Jiang, you don't have to send me off. Thank you for today. At the entrance of the residence, Huang Linger turned around, looked at Jiang Tian and bowed deeply. It's okay. I'm your dad's friend. Jiang Tian smiled stiffly. Huang Linger returned the coat to Jiang Tian. She wanted to say something but hesitated. With tears in her eyes, she looked at Jiang Tian and whispered, Professor Jiang, can I hug you? She was shocked by her own words. She also knew that it was very impolite and even a little strange, but she couldn't control her surging emotions at all. She looked at Jiang Tian with an aggrieved and pleading expression, and sparkling and translucent tears flowed from her eyes. Let's head back. Jiang Tian touched her head and said with a gentle smile, It's too late. Your parents will be worried. Just at this moment, a pleasantly surprised voice called out, Brother-in-law, so you're here. Jiang Tian turned his head and saw Zhao Xueqing and her sister walking over. He was also surprised and smiled. Why are you guys here? Big sister said that she wanted to give you a surprise. Zhao Qianru ran over and pulled Jiang Tian's arm. Damn, it was simply a shock and a surprise. Jiang Tian was secretly afraid in his heart. He had to admit that a woman's sixth sense was extremely terrifying. Actually, Zhao Xueqing had already noticed Huang Linger when she walked over. After being stunned for a moment, she said with a smile that was not a smile, Jiang Tian, this is... She had already recognized that she was the girl beside Jiang Tian in the photo. However, she was much more mature, and her figure was taller and more exquisite. She was even more charming than before. She thought to herself that Jiang Tian's taste in picking girls was pretty good. This girl's face was pretty, and she had a scholarly air about her. She was intelligent and had a kind of reserved and deep beauty. The more she looked at her, the better she looked. However, she believed that Jiang Tian was a person who knew his limits. Even if she had a relationship with Jiang Tian would not act recklessly. She believed that she was an admirer of Jiang Tian. After all, the current Jiang Tian's charm was astonishing. Moreover, she had also seen clearly from behind that the two of them had walked far away, but they had always maintained a distance. However, her eyes were filled with tears, and there were also tear stains on her face. What was going on? Oh, this is Professor Huang Zhihui's daughter. I just happened to bump into her, so I sent her back. Linger, this is my wife, Zhao Xueqing, and this is my sister-in-law. Jiang Tian smiled and introduced the two of them. "Hello, Madam Jiang." Huang Linger quickly bowed, and her face was already blushing. She was secretly surprised. How could Teacher Jiang's wife be so beautiful? Her figure and appearance were first-rate, especially her temperament. She was ethereal, like a fairy. She was much better than those female celebrities on TV. Only a woman like this could be worthy of Jiang Tian. She sighed in her heart, but also felt a little embarrassed and ashamed. She had actually asked for a hug from Jiang Tian. Fortunately, Jiang Tian did not hug her. If she had seen it, it would be hard to explain. "All right, you can go back." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and waved his hand, letting Huang Linger go first. Goodbye, Teacher Jiang, goodbye, Madam Jiang." Huang Linger bowed again, and then turned to leave. Zhao Xueqing and her sister and Jiang Tian walked toward the school gate. They did not drive, and they wanted to take Jiang Tian's car home. "This little girl is quite lively." "Jiang Tian, do you have any thoughts?" Zhao Xueqing raised her eyebrows, and her clear eyes looked at Jiang Tian. "What nonsense are you talking about? We're really just friends." Jiang Tian was shocked, and then he quickly changed the topic. "Why are you suddenly here?" "I've already absorbed most of the spiritual energy from the 5 elements spirit gathering formation. I'm here to make a surprise attack and see if you're hiding a mistress in your golden house." Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian mockingly and smiled faintly. "Absolutely not. I've always kept my chastity for you, okay?" Jiang Tian wanted to swear. His heart trembled. Damn China. She's not that easy to fool, she can't even change the topic. "What happened to your hand?" Suddenly he noticed that Zhao Xueqing was wearing gloves, and the weather was not cold at all, so he asked suspiciously. "Nothing. Some time ago I was cooking and my hand hurt." Zhao Xueqing avoided the topic. "Well, she didn't listen to my advice and insisted on talking about the white ape zither." "Let me see." Jiang Tian grabbed her wrist and took off her gloves. He saw that the 5 fingertips were bleeding and there were wounds all over. Even the fingernails were broken, revealing the pink flesh. "It's okay, it's just a small injury." Seeing that Jiang Tian's eyes were red, Zhao Xueqing comforted in a gentle voice. "It'll be fine in 2 days. Sai, don't play anymore, I'll help you find the D-daughter flower as soon as possible." Jiang Tian sighed and then said firmly, "Little sister Qing'e, you're here." After returning to the mansion, Yi Ziwei was also very surprised to see that Zhao Xueqing had come, and she held onto her little hand and asked a lot of questions. "Big sister Ziwei, I'll be able to finish absorbing the spell formation set up by Jiang Tian in 10 days. Zhao Xueqing smiled. "In the future, I'll be able to live in Jinling and accompany Mom, Dad, and Big Sister Qing'e every day." "Hee, that's great. Dad, Mom, and Dad are all anxious to have grandchildren." Yi Ziwei smiled teasingly. "You guys talk, I'm going to take a shower." Jiang Tian's face darkened, and he hurriedly dashed into the bedroom. "Why don't you go take a shower with Jiang Tian?" Yi Ziwei giggled. "No, you should go." Zhao Xueqing teased. I don't care about him." Yi Ziwei smiled. "When I came to the Jiang family, he was only 6 or 7 years old. I've seen his but countless times." The 3 women let out a burst of bell-like laughter, and Zhao Xueqing was overjoyed. "Forget it, I'll take a shower with you later, Big Sister Ziwei, and I want to sleep with you tonight. Then Jiang Tian will hate me to death. You guys are like newlyweds." Yi Ziwei teased. In fact, she already had some understanding in her heart. Jiang Tian sent Huang Linger back and came back with Zhao Xueqing, so Zhao Xueqing must have met Huang Linger and wanted to ask her about it. Soon, the 3 women finished washing up, and the Zhao Xueqing sisters hugged Yi Ziwei as they slept on a large bed, chatting casually. In the end, it was the godly assistant Zhao Qianru who couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked, "Big Sister Ziwei, do you know Huang Linger? I think she's a little abnormal with brother-in-law." "Qianru, why are you bringing this up?" Zhao Xueqing frowned and rolled her eyes at her. "She seems to be my brother-in-law's ex-girlfriend, right?" Zhao Qianru smiled shamelessly. Yi Ziwei turned over and sat up. She picked up a box of women's cigarettes from the bedside table and lit one up. She exhaled a mouthful of smoke and sighed faintly. Qing, this is a very sad story. If you're willing, I'll tell you. Big sister, I believe in Jiang Tian's character, and I've never doubted him. Zhao Xueqing smiled awkwardly and said, it's just that I want to know more about Jiang Tian's past. I want to understand him. Linger is indeed Jiang Tian's girlfriend, and she even had a miscarriage for him. After Yi Ziwei finished speaking, the Zhao Xueqing sisters were stunned. They were silent for a long time, and their hearts were filled with complicated feelings. Big sister, this Huang Linger is really pitiful. Zhao Qianru said with a sobbing tone, brother-in-law is also ruthless. He's too cruel. He actually erased her memory. Sigh. Zhao Xueqing sighed. She was stunned for a long time. She did not say anything. Her eyes were blank and empty as she looked at the ceiling. Zhao Qianru hurriedly said, Big sister, that's not what I meant. I don't support brother-in-law marrying another concubine. If she wants to fight for favor, I will definitely stand on your side and beat her up. She doesn't even remember Jiang Tian now. What's the point of fighting for favor? Yi Ziwei exhaled a mouthful of smoke and shook her head with a bitter smile. Jiang Tian is really too good to me. His heart must be tormented. Zhao Xueqing's eyes turned red. She wiped her tears and said, actually, Linger has also done a lot for him, right? He is a person who values friendship. How guilty and tormented he must be in his heart. The problem is that she can have anything else, but what she wants is love. Jiang Tian already has you, so how can he give it to her? Yi Ziwei said, Big sister, as long as a man has some ability, which one of them is not a womanizer and has 3 wives and 4 concubines? Zhao Xueqing smiled and said, Jiang Tian is so outstanding. Actually, a cripple like me is not worthy of him. If there are other women who like him and can accompany him and assist him, if he is also interested, I will not stop him. Stop, stop. Yi Ziwei hurriedly waved her hand and said, Qing, don't go astray. It's not easy for you to be in such a state. How can you give Jiang Tian to someone else? I'm not giving Jiang Tian away. It's just that when it comes to matters of the heart, who can say for sure? Let nature take its course. Zhao Xueqing thought of Huang Linger's tear-filled face and her heart throbbed with pain and sadness. Chapter 262. The next day, when Jiang Tian woke up, he saw that Zhao Xueqing had already made breakfast. He couldn't help but be furious. He pointed at Zhao Xueqing and said, Qianru, what are you doing? You lazy bum, can your sister's hand get wet? How can I stop him? Sister woke up at 5 in the morning and I'm still sleeping. How can I stop him? Zhao Qianru was depressed to death. This was an unexpected disaster. Seeing her sister's aggrieved face, Zhao Xueqing hurriedly said, Jiang Tian, don't be nervous. I used your ointment on my hand and it's already healed. Jiang Tian's black jade ointment had an astonishing recovery ability. Ordinary external injuries could be healed overnight, not to mention that Qingya used a special one. That won't do. You should rest for a few days. Jiang Tian sat down to eat. He frowned and nagged, Why did you wake up so early? You don't have to go to work, hubby. I booked an 8 o'clock flight in the morning. I'm going back to Linzhou immediately. Zhao Xueqing said gently. Why are you in such a hurry? Jiang Tian was puzzled. Then he pulled Qingya's hand and said reluctantly, Qingya, are you going to stay here for a few days? Beside him, Yi Ziwei also said anxiously, That's right. Dad and Mom will come to see you soon. If 2 people love each other for a long time, why would they be together day and night? Zhao Xueqing looked at Jiang Tian with her beautiful eyes and said softly, Hubby, actually, I also want to accompany you for a few more days. But you treat me so well, how can I let you down? I have to cultivate as soon as possible and make full use of the 5-element spirit convergence array. After absorbing it, I'll accompany you. Then, Zhao Xueqing looked at Yi Ziwei apologetically and said, Sister Ziwei, apologize to Dad and Mom on my behalf. Forgive Qing'er for being unfilial. I want to use the array as soon as possible and then accompany Dad and Mom. All right then. Yi Ziwei had nothing else to say. She could only nod her head. While they were eating breakfast, the doorbell rang. Yi Ziwei asked a few questions through the access control, and then asked in astonishment, Jiang Tian, Huaqing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan and Wei Feilong, 3 people are here to see you. Do you want to see them or not? Why are they here? Jiang Tian wiped his mouth and stood up, saying, Let them in. A moment later, the 3 of them came to the living room together. They first cupped their fists and bowed respectfully. Junior greets Master Kong. Their expressions were respectful, and their eyes were filled with admiration. They were behaving like disciples. You're too polite. In terms of martial arts, the 3 of you are my seniors. Please take a seat, Jiang Tian said politely. However, he was slightly surprised. These 3 people's clothes were ragged, and their faces were full of frostbite and sunburn. The soles of their shoes were worn through, and their faces were full of fatigue. If he had not seen them before, he would have thought that they were 3 beggars. After the guests and the host were seated, Yi Ziwei served tea. Jiang Tian said, Everyone, it's been more than half a year since we parted at Poyang Lake last year. I've missed the 3 of you very much. We've also missed Master Kang's elegance all the time, Huaqing Tian said with a smile. Wei Feilong looked at Zhao Xueqing and said, Master Kong, this is Madame Xian, right? She's really like a celestial being, a dragon among men. Junior greets the 3 seniors. Zhao Xueqing bowed. Her movements were proper and elegant, as if she was a lady of the Republic of China. Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Zhao Yuankuan and said, Brother Zhao, what's wrong with your leg? You seem to be seriously injured? Zhao Yuankuan was originally a strong man and a martial arts grandmaster, but now he was limping. Jiang Tian scanned him with his divine sense and found that he was seriously injured. But in Huaxia, the number of people who could hurt Zhao Yuankuan could probably be counted on one hand. Zhao Yuankuan chuckled and said, It's a small matter. Let's talk business first. Hee, the 3 of us don't visit a temple without a reason. This time, we've come to visit Master Kong because we have good news to report to Master Kong. Huaqing Tian's eyes turned cold, and he went straight to the point and said, Master Kong, there's news about the princess flower. As soon as these words came out, the entire place became silent. No one could make a sound. Really? Jiang Tian was in disbelief. His heart almost jumped out of his throat, and his hands were trembling with excitement. Huaqing Tian took out a photo from his pocket and handed it to Jiang Tian, saying, Master Kong, please take a look. It's the princess flower, and it's 500 years old. It's about to mature. Where is it? Jiang Tian was even more shocked. In the photo, snowy peaks towered in the distance, and thousands of miles were sealed in ice. It was like a jade dragon soaring in the sky, and goose feather snowflakes fluttered in the air. But nearby, there was a red flower half the height of a person. It bloomed in the cold, like a fire phoenix dancing in the air. The location of the photo should be high in the cold, and the surrounding mountains were steep and endless, covered in white snow. What was even more shocking was that although the environment was cold, the flower was surrounded by luxuriant grass, flowers, trees, butterflies, and bees. A stream flowed by, forming an oasis that was like spring all year round. It's really the princess flower. We didn't work for nothing. Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankuan slapped their thighs and smiled with relief. Finally found it. I finally have a pity to cultivate. Zhao Xueqing's mind was agitated, and she cried tears of joy. Her beautiful eyes seeped out big drops of tears, and her body went soft, almost falling. Reporting to Master Kong, this princess flower grows on the north slope of Mount Everest. Huaqing Tian smiled and said, Master Kang's matter, in the eyes of us martial artists, is a big matter. After parting at Poyang Lake last year, the 3 of us tried everything to find this princess flower. According to the information provided by Master Kong, this flower likes cold places, but it also emits a scorching aura. So, the 3 of us led many disciples into the highlands, climbed the snowy mountains, and visited the famous mountains and rivers. Finally, we found this princess flower. Huaxia was vast, and there were thousands of mountains and forests. It was easier said than done to find a small princess flower in these thousands of snowy mountains. It was no exaggeration to say that it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. There was no need for Huaqing Tian to describe in detail. Jiang Tian already knew how big of a project it was. Huaqing Tian smiled bitterly and said, "That day, the three of us climbed Mount Everest and finally found the princess flower. Just as we were about to pluck it, a monk came and attacked us. Sigh, that old monk was so strong. My skills were not as good as his and I was actually hit by him. My leg has been damaged ever since." Zhao Yunkuan sighed and shook his head. "We knew we were no match for him, so we could only retreat. We did not bring the princess flower back. We have made a fool of ourselves in front of Master Kong. If I made a fool of Brother Zhao, would I still be human? I owe you a big favor." Jiang Tian stood up, cupped his fists and bowed deeply. "Master Kong is too polite." The three of them quickly stood up and returned the bow. "Brother Zhao, let me take a look at your leg." Jiang Tian gestured, and Zhao Yuankuan immediately rolled up his pants. There were strange patterns on his leg that formed a stack of green lotus flowers. The lotus flowers exuded a chilling aura, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. White fog filled the air, making it look very strange and eerie. The muscles on his injured leg had atrophied badly. It was as if he was just skin and bones. Parts of his leg had already rotted and emitted a foul stench. "This is a telekinesis talisman. It's a type of psychic attack." Jiang Tian said curiously, "This kind of green lotus-like talisman will restrict and deprive your body of qi and blood. It's very different from Hua Xia's true qi." A sharp glint flashed across his eyes. He asked calmly, "Was it that monk who attacked you? Where did he come from? Even the three of you were no match for him?" "Yeah, I lost count of how many times I fell along the way. I can't even walk properly." Zhao Yuankuan smiled bitterly. "That person should be the #1 monk in India, Master Qing Lian. 30 years ago, he came to Hua Xia's Shaolin temple to preach. The old man saw him once." Huaqing Tian said sternly. "For the past 10 years, he has occupied the top of Mount Everest and claimed the princess flower as his own. He built a dojo and drank from the spirit spring to absorb the spirit qi. He has many followers in India and is blessed with the power of merit will. He is the 5th most powerful person in Southeast Asia. I'm afraid he is as powerful as a peak-level grandmaster in Huaxia. He is far more powerful than us." "Oh, a bald donkey from India. How could he have the right to own a spirit flower like the princess flower?" Jiang Tian smiled faintly as a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. He suddenly asked, "What is the Southeast Asia powerful list?" "Oh, that is the list of the most powerful people created by Wang Chongyan, the president of the Chinese Society of Singapore. Those who can make it to the top are the most powerful." Huaqing Tian's face darkened as he explained. "Those who make it to the top 30 are as powerful as the grandmasters in Huaxia." "I see." Jiang Tian nodded. "Master Kong, can you undo the talisman on Brother Zhao's leg?" Wei Feilong asked worriedly. "Don't worry about it." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He formed hand seals with both hands and activated his divine ability, striking towards Zhao Yuankuan's injured leg. Fire Element Dharma Spell. Warm Fire Nurturing Talisman. As Jiang Tian made some hand gestures, streaks of strange red runes appeared in the air. They were bright and heavy. The red light particles seemed to carry the original energy of Hongmeng. They flickered as if they were in the depths of the universe. In the end, they formed into a series of complicated talismans. Countless talismans were connected to the talismans. These talismans were filled with heat and pure vitality. It was like a small world full of life. "You will be healed in 15 minutes." Jiang Tian cracked a smile and pressed the talisman on Zhao Yuankuan's injured leg. Zhao Yuankuan immediately let out a comfortable cry. He felt as if his injured leg was soaked in warm water. It was itchy and hot. At the same time, a warm current flowed into the meridians and acupoints in his leg. In fact, This was the healing power formed by the demonic flame energy in Jiang Tian's body. It could break all kinds of talismans, especially ice element talismans. It was as if it had the help of God. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, the green lotus talisman on Zhao Yuankuan's leg disintegrated and collapsed. The withered muscles quickly swelled up, and the broken blood vessels were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the living room, thousands of auspicious lights and tens of thousands of rays of light filled the air. The red light was like a mist. It was like heaven. It only took 5 minutes for Zhao Yuankuan's leg to be completely healed. It was even stronger than before. Thank you, Master Kang, for saving my life. Master Kang's Dharma spell is even more powerful than Master Green Lotus's. The three of them were grateful and impressed. They quickly bowed to Jiang Tian with the most respectful attitude in their lives. Don't mention it. After sitting down again, Jiang Tian immediately rolled up his sleeves and said impatiently, I'm going to get the princess flower. Don't let that old bald thief eat it first. Do you want to come? Chapter 263. Master Kang, don't worry. Wei Feilong smiled and said, the three of us only have one presumptuous request. We don't know if it's appropriate, but we hope that Master Kang can make it clear. President Wei, you're too polite. There's no harm in asking, Jiang Tian said with a smile. It could be said that he had always kept a respectful distance from the martial arts world in Huaxia. As long as they didn't provoke him, he would mind his own business. But at this moment, in order to help him find the D-daughter flower, these three gurus had gone through a lot of hardships. They had visited many famous mountains and rivers in half a year, and their mountaineering shoes were worn out. Even though Jiang Tian's state of mind was as stable as a rock, he was still somewhat moved. The distance between Jiang Tian and them suddenly narrowed a lot. He had already regarded them as his own people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bothered to treat Zhao Yuankuan's injury. Wei Feilong was also a man of wisdom. He felt the change in Jiang Tian's mood and was happy in his heart. He said, we plan to set up a heavenly alliance with Master Kang as the core. Anyone who follows Master Kang and receives guidance from Master Kang will be a member. The realm must be above the transformative stage. Heavenly Alliance. What are you doing? Jiang Tian frowned slightly. In the past 6 months, we have received information that many martial artists and supernatural ability people from all over the world have stepped into Huaxia and set off a bloody storm. They treat our martial arts world in Huaxia as if there's no one there. Huaqing Tian said worriedly, the members of our Heavenly Alliance will follow Master Kang's lead and follow your orders. We will show our butcher's knife to these invaders and kill them all the way. In the battle, we will no longer use the name of our family or sect, but Heavenly Alliance. In this way, you will not make me famous in the martial arts world in Huaxia, but make me famous all over the world. Jiang Tian looked at them with a faint smile. We know that Master Kang is like the clear wind and the bright moon, with lofty aspirations and unsullied reputation. This is indeed a joke by Master Kang. Wei Feilong smiled apologetically and said, this is just to defend Huaxia's martial arts world against external insults and to hold our heads high. Jiang Tian frowned and said, but as far as I know, the Huaxia Long Formation was also established to defend against foreign experts. Won't we be usurping the role of the host by doing this? Master Kang doesn't know. Wei Feilong sighed and said awkwardly, Yi Zhantian is obsessed with martial arts. He once went into seclusion for 10 years in order to reach the peak of martial arts and step into the immortal state. These mundane matters? All right, do as you please. Jiang Tian scanned the crowd and said slowly, since all of you are diligently pursuing the martial Dao, I will also give you some pointers on the martial Dao. I can also share my elixirs and formations with all of you. Thank you, Master Kang. We will never forget Master Kang's kindness for the rest of our lives. The three of them were overjoyed and knelt on the ground together. Wei Feilong was so moved that he even cried. They knew that Jiang Tian was only in his 20s and had stepped into the peak of the transcendent state and the truth of the immortal state. He could be said to be extremely talented and was a cultivator that was hard to come by in 100 or even 1,000 years. To be guided by such a genius could be said to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could not be bought with money. At this moment, they felt that the hardships they had endured for the past 6 months were all worth it. Get up. Jiang Tian helped them up and said with a smile, "But I have a condition. If you kill any invaders in the future, don't tarnish my reputation. Since my debut, I have never been defeated. I don't expect you to be invincible in the future, but you must never kneel down and beg for mercy. Otherwise, no matter who you are, I will not let you off easily." Such lofty ideals and lofty aspirations do not disgrace us martial artists. Hearing this, their hearts skipped a beat and then they looked at Jiang Tian with great respect. Jiang Tian's words were simple and plain, but they were overflowing with a monstrous domineering aura. It was as if he was a peerless overlord who stood proudly in the world and was not afraid of even the gods and Buddhas. What was the strength of a martial artist? It was not only destructive power, but also a kind of spirit. It was a kind of self-improvement, indomitable spirit, and an awe-inspiring righteousness that would never admit defeat and never admit defeat. Of course, if you obtain my guidance in this world, how many people can be a match for you? Jiang Tian chuckled. The three of them nodded like chickens pecking at rice, overjoyed. "Everyone, I am going to Mount Everest to look for the D-daughter flower. Are you willing to be my guides?" Jiang Tian's face turned serious as he looked toward the southwest and asked in a deep voice. "Of course, it is our honor." Hu Qingtian and Zhao Yuankuan quickly bowed and cupped their fists. The D-daughter flower is next to Master Qing Lian's dojo. He guards it every day. If Master Kong wants to pick the D-daughter flower, I'm afraid there will be a battle. However, Wei Feilong was a little worried. "President Wei, have you forgotten the original intention of the Heaven Alliance so quickly?" Jiang Tian smiled and said, "The northern foot of Mount Everest belongs to Huaxia. What is the reason for a yellow-skinned monkey from India to build a dojo there?" Grandmaster Zhang's words make sense. It is an old man who is afraid to fight. Wei Feilong bowed and cupped his fists, looking ashamed. "An inch of land, an inch of blood, an inch of land." Jiang Tian suddenly stood up. The moment he straightened his body, a strong and sharp aura was emitted. He was like an unsheathed sword, as if he could cut through the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Only then did he reveal his true colors as a Taichu celestial lord. "I want to kill Master Qing Lian and use his blood as a sacrifice for the Heaven Alliance." Although Jiang Tian's words were simple, they were domineering and powerful, shocking everyone. "Jiangdan, this time I must go with you." Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Tian's hand. Her eyes were red, and her pretty face was full of worry. In order to help her find the D-daughter flower, Jiang Tian had caused a ruckus in the Martial Arts Alliance conference. He was already in danger. Now, as the most powerful person in India, Master Qing Lian was not even a match for the 3 grandmasters. His strength was terrifying. "Qing, it is useless for you to go." Jiang Tian persuaded her gently. "Cultivate well in Linzhou. Ghost Kick, Li Jinwei, and the rest will be there to protect you." Although Qing'e was unwilling, she knew that Jiang Tian was telling the truth. She would only be a burden to Jiang Tian if she went there. She thought for a long time and said reluctantly, "I will listen to you. But you have to promise that you will not be hurt and that you will return safely." "Don't worry. Master Qing Lian is no match for me," Jiang Tian said and walked out of the door without looking back. He had an indomitable spirit. When Jiang Tian, accompanied by the 3 grandmasters, set off in the southwest direction, toward the Tibetan area, toward Mount Everest, a secret message began to circulate among the upper echelons of the world's powerful organizations. A picture was placed in front of all the major underground organizations around the world. This picture was the picture of the D-daughter flower that Hu Qingtian had shown to Jiang Tian. This is the catalytic spirit spring. It is definitely the purest form of catalytic spirit spring. It can stimulate the potential of the human body and achieve the evolution of the human body, turning ordinary people into talented arcanists. It must be. Look at those plants that can only grow in the tropics. They are growing on Mount Everest. How strong is its vitality? Immediately, the upper echelons of the underground organizations came to a conclusion. Moreover, it is an endless supply of catalytic spirit spring. It has formed an inexhaustible source of catalytic spirit spring. An arcanist exclaimed. Drinking a mouthful of catalytic spirit spring can stimulate one's potential, not to mention so much of it. Go get the catalytic spirit spring. If you drink so much catalytic spirit spring, you will become a peerless powerhouse and step into the immortal state. Many people were tempted. For a moment, the entire underground world was in an uproar. From Europe to North America, from East Asia to Southeast Asia, many powerhouses turned their attention to East Asia, Huaxia, Tibet, and the snow-covered world at the northern foot of the main peak. Huaxia is guarded by the Long Formation. It is a forbidden area for the Dark Ones. Can we go there? However, some people were a little timid. We can take a detour from India and Nepal. After plucking the princess flower, we can run away. Someone suggested. Take a detour from Nepal? Southeast Asia is the territory of the Chinese Society of Singapore. Wang Chongyan will skin you alive. Someone calmly analyzed. Moreover, all the major forces have been alerted. Japan's Sakura Society, Russia's Winter Soldiers, America's Blue Storm, Europe's Pantheon, the Covenant of Darkness. How powerful are they? I'm afraid they will turn the world upside down. The weak will die if they are caught in the crossfire. Also, I heard that the #1 monk in India, Qing Lian, built a dojo there 10 years ago for the catalytic spirit spring. Will he just sit back and watch everyone take it away? As soon as that was said, many of the Dark World's powerhouses fell silent. That was right. The news had been leaked. The catalytic spirit spring could be said to be the favorite of all the major organizations in the world. When the time came, the overlords would gather and they would fight to the death. Ordinary people would be nothing more than cannon fodder. Was it worth it to increase their combat power? Most of the small and medium-sized organizations had given up on the idea. However, some of the super forces were unwilling to give up. The International Spell Conference is going to be held in Singapore. Unfortunately, the Divine Herb and the Catalytic Spirit Spring have appeared. In the past year, the Chinese Society of Singapore has lost a few elites. Master Kumin Thong, Baong of the Heavens, ancient Muay Thai expert Meng Kong, and many others. If we don't increase our strength, I'm afraid that the Sakura Society and the Great Circle will suppress us. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can't miss it. In the Singapore Chinese Club, inside a magnificent European-style hall that was brightly lit, an old man in his 70s stood tall and straight. He had a pair of sharp eyes as he presided over the meeting. He was Wang Chongyan. He was already 110 years old, but he was still hale and hearty. Wang Chongyan was known as the Guqin Swordmaster. He was able to form chi weapons from the strings of the Guqin and produce soul-breaking demonic sound. He was at the peak of the transcendent state and was rumored to have reached half a step away from the immortal state. He was on the same level as Yi Tianren, the father of Yi Zhantian. He was much more powerful than Lin Zhenyu, Hua Qingtian, Hong Tianzhao, and many others. He was already famous during the Republic of China. He had formed the Blue Cloth Society and was on the same level as Huang Jinrong and Du Yuesheng. Later, before the Battle of the River Crossing, he lost to Yi Tianren. Knowing that the situation was hopeless, he left Huaxia and went to Singapore from Nanyang. He changed the Blue Cloth Society into the Chinese Society of Singapore. There were Huaxia spellcasters, martial artists, and Nanyang sorcery masters. Chapter 264. By now, the Chinese Society of Singapore was no longer limited to Singapore, but had spread to the entire Southeast Asia. Many ship tycoons, hotel tycoons, and tycoons were under his protection. In Singapore, even the Prime Minister had to show him respect. He was like the king of the land. But Yi Zhantian is in charge of Huaxia. Will we be in trouble if we go there? Oyila the immortal reach asked with furrowed brows. Her appearance was aged, and she had the skin of a chicken and the head of a crane. Her feet were thin, and her figure was stooped. She wore a black cloak and held a withered wooden cane in her hand, and her entire body emitted a ghastly and gloomy aura. She was a famous sorcerer in Malaysia and ranked 4th on the Southeast Asian power ranking. She was an expert in black magic and was an expert in black magic. Legend had it that she could kill someone from 100 miles away. In Malaysia, she was like the Grand Preceptor and had many followers. Wang Chongyan's face darkened as he heard her words. He sneered and said, Yi Zhantian is nothing. If not for his father Yi Tianren's Dharma artifact, he would not have been able to defeat me. He was a powerful cultivator of the same generation as Yi Tianren and had a grudge against the Yi clan. How could he take Yi Zhantian, a junior, seriously? That Master Green Lotus is cultivating in the territory of Huaxia. It's like riding on his neck and pissing on him, but he doesn't care at all. He's just a coward. How ridiculous. He's just a clown. Before he finished his words, he straightened his back and unleashed a powerful energy that swept across the area. His eyes flashed with lightning as he pushed Oyila back a step. Wang Chongyan said coldly, If I can get my hands on the catalyzing spirit spring, I will be able to enter the immortal state. By then, even if that old bastard Yi Tianren comes out of seclusion, I'll be able to kill him with a snap of my fingers. As for that little kid Jiang Taichu who rose to prominence recently, he's even less of a match. Celestial, could it be that he's not dead yet? A tall and burly man asked in a low voice. Oyila looked at him with a hint of fear in her eyes. Although the man was sitting, his head was almost touching the ceiling. The muscles all over his body seemed to be cast from fine iron, shining with a strange luster. He was known as Tyson the Elephant. He was a physical awakened from Cambodia and ranked 10th in Southeast Asia. His physical body was strong, impervious to fire and water, and invulnerable to swords and spears. Furthermore, his strength was immense, and his combat power was surging. He could uproot towering trees and smash boulders with his fists and feet. His strength was not inferior to Hua Xia's external physique refinement grandmasters. Humph, how could these half-step divine stage old fellows be willing to die so easily? It's just that he's afraid of nuclear weapons, so he's been training in seclusion. Wang Chongyan snorted coldly and stood in front of the window with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the sky for a long time, and no one knew what he was thinking. Senior Wang, I think we should add more firepower. Below the seat, a bearded man with sharp eyes and wearing a camouflage combat uniform asked in surprise. Oyila looked at him with sinister eyes, thinking that this guy would definitely not let go of such a good opportunity to make a contribution. His name was Ba Tu, and he was the leader of the Black Wings mercenary group that ran rampant in the Mekong River basin of the Golden Triangle. The Black Wings mercenary group was also an external organization of the Chinese Society in Singapore. It was a private military organization with thousands of members and was legally equipped with heavy firepower. Their influence was so great that they could influence the coup of a small country. Even the big shots like Kun Sa had to retreat when they saw him. Ba Tu had been enlightened by Wang Chongyan. He could use his black wings and move as fast as lightning. Just like the legendary Lei Zhenzi, he was the 6th most powerful man in Southeast Asia. Wang Chongyan nodded. His eyes were sharp as he lowered his body and said, This time, Oyila will lead the Black Wing mercenaries to move out together. You must bring back the divine grass and the spiritual spring water. The more the better. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, knew nothing about this. The group of 4 flew to Lhasa City, Tibet, and then drove an off-road vehicle to the direction of Mount Everest. It seems that Mount Everest is not a mysterious place anymore. Anyone can come here. How did Master Green Lotus keep the Princess Flower from being discovered? The vehicle stopped at the foot of Mount Everest. The 4 of them got out of the vehicle and scanned the surroundings. Jiang Tian could not help but frown. There was a stretch of tents at the foot of Mount Everest. There was also a lot of trash, human excrement, climbing equipment, and so on. Mount Everest was now the most sought-after mountain climbers from all over the world. They were wearing windbreakers, down jackets, one-piece hiking shoes, headlamps, climbing ropes, and oxygen packs. Mount Everest was the highest mountain in the world. It was extremely cold, lacked oxygen, and was very dangerous. The mortality rate of climbing Mount Everest was as high as 4%. He built a green lotus temple there and set up a small concealment array. Hua Qingtian replied, "It looked like a fog. It took us a long time to find it." "Oh, I see," Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Although Jiang Tian was known as Kong Teichu in the martial arts world of Huaxia, no one could recognize him standing in this place. However, the appearance of the four of them attracted a lot of attention and discussion. "Oh my, he's only wearing a long-sleeved shirt. Isn't he afraid of freezing to death? He didn't bring any equipment. Does he want to suffocate to death from lack of oxygen? For idiots. They're here to die." This place was already 2,000 meters above sea level, and the temperature was very low, reaching below zero. Even a drop of water would turn into ice. However, Jiang Tian was only wearing a thin cotton shirt, and the three master-level masters were only wearing normal mountaineering clothes, which were relatively thin. For a moment, the climbers looked at Jiang Tian as if he was an idiot. Their eyes were full of mockery and ridicule. "Isn't that Zhang Yilin's cousin, Jiang Tian?" Suddenly, a girl sitting on a rock and cooking rice in a pressure cooker saw Jiang Tian. She was slightly stunned and murmured subconsciously. Behind him sat an old man who was about 60 years old. He looked a little weak and was wearing an oxygen mask to take in oxygen. Jiang Tian turned his head subconsciously and glanced at the girl. Her voice was very low, but how could she avoid Jiang Tian's divine sense? Jiang Tian also found the girl a little familiar, but he couldn't figure out her identity at the moment. Seeing Jiang Tian looking at her, the girl was more certain of Jiang Tian's identity. She walked quickly and said with a smile, "Jiang Tian, I'm Gu Qingqing, Zhang Yilin's classmate. I went to Linzhou to find you before. Are you feeling better?" "Oh, it's you." Jiang Tian patted his head and smiled as if he had suddenly realized something. "Why are you here?" Zhang Yilin was the daughter of the fourth uncle of the Zhang family in Yanjing. He had always been close to her. When she was a child, she was seriously ill and had been taken care of by Jiang Zhixing for a few years. However, when she recovered, she returned to the Zhang family. Now, she should still be studying at Yanjing University. Zhang Yilin had been very close to Jiang Tian since she was a child. It could be said that in the cold and heartless Zhang family, only Zhang Yilin and his fourth uncle's family had brought him a little warmth. After Jiang Tian caused trouble and left Linzhou, she had asked Gu Qingqing to go to Linzhou several times and left tens of thousands of yuan. At that time, Jiang Tian had already been poisoned by Wu Chaohui, so he had a very vague memory of Gu Qingqing. "Oh, my dad and I are doing an archaeological project to find a relic. What about you? Are you here to travel and climb mountains?" Gu Qingqing was in her 20s. She was petite and had delicate facial features. Her skin was white and clear, and she looked a little immature and childish. She looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. She felt that Jiang Tian seemed to have recovered from his mental illness. However, it didn't seem right to come to Mount Everest wearing these clothes without any equipment. Yes. I'm just looking around." Jiang Tian nodded. He thought to himself, "How can I have time to travel?" Why are you wearing so little clothes?" Gu Qingqing ran into the tent and pulled out a mountaineering jacket for Jiang Tian. She said, "This is my dad's. It should fit you. Hurry up and put it on. Come and eat something." With Jiang Tian's physique, although he was still a mortal, he had been tempered by the chaos creation incantation. How could this little bit of cold and lack of oxygen hurt him at all? However, seeing Gu Qingqing's good intentions, Jiang Tian couldn't refuse, so he put it on. "There's some yak meat stew here. If you want to climb Mount Everest, you need a lot of stamina and nutrition." Gu Qingqing opened the pressure cooker and filled a few bowls for Jiang Tian and the others. Jiang Tian saw Gu Qingqing's warm and considerate attitude and had a good impression of her. He sat on the stone and chatted with her while eating. "Old mister, how should I address you?" Jiang Tian ate the yak meat in big mouthfuls. It tasted good. You flatter me, you flatter me. My name is Gu Baixian. I'm from the Gu family in Yanjing. I'm a professor in the Department of Archaeology at Yanjing University. Gu Baixian was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. His face was pale and blue. He cupped his hands and said weakly, Gu Baixian? Who is Gu Songhai to you? Qing Tian was suddenly stunned and interrupted. That's my big brother. Do you know him? Gu Baixian was also a little surprised. The Gu family was a small martial arts family and wasn't very famous in Huaxia. However, his big brother Gu Songhai only knew martial artists. This old man actually knew him. Was he also a martial artist? And he seemed to be Jiang Tian's follower. Then who is Jiang Tian? Oh, I've heard of him, but I've never met him. Qing Tian frowned. Since the Gu family was a martial arts family, why would they have someone who was an archaeology professor? Moreover, this person's aura was weak, and he didn't seem to have any martial arts cultivation. It was really strange. Old Mr. Gu, your body seems to be a little weak. Jiang Tian looked at Gu Baixian, who was wrapped in a sleeping bag and leaning against a stone, and said with a smile, Yes, I'm old and useless. I've been an archaeologist all my life and have explored all kinds of famous mountains, rivers, and underground caves. I've been to Mount Everest 5 or 6 times. I didn't expect that I would almost die before I even reached the foot of the mountain. Gu Baixian said with a bitter smile, panting. Old Mr. Gu, let me take a look for you. Jiang Tian didn't wait for him to refuse. He took his pulse and scanned him with his divine sense. Old Mr. Gu, you must have fallen ill 5 years ago. Your whole body feels cold, and your qi and blood are not flowing smoothly. When it's cloudy, rainy, or snowy weather, your chest will ache faintly, and you'll feel dizzy. In severe cases, you'll even faint. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Jiang Tian, how could you tell? Your medical skills are simply amazing. Gu Qingqing hugged Jiang Tian's arm with a face full of surprise. Then she suddenly realized something and said, That's right, that's right. Your family is a family of doctors, so you must know medical skills. That means your illness has been cured. Chapter 265. Ahem, you're taking advantage of me. Feeling the softness in his arm, Jiang Tian coughed awkwardly. Gu Qingqing blushed and quickly let go of Jiang Tian's arm. Gu Baixian already knew that Jiang Tian was not an ordinary person. His eyes flashed with surprise, and then he asked in a low voice, Jiang Tian, can you cure my illness? Of course. Jiang Tian knew that someone had injected a cold, genuine qi seal into Gu Baixian's body. It sealed several acupoints and meridians of his Shanzhong acupoint. If these seals were not removed, he could live for another 3 years at most. Moreover, this seal was a bit like a magic seal. It was much more advanced than the sealing of acupoints. It was very difficult to remove, and it could even be activated from a distance and take his life at any time. Jiang Tian was about to treat him, but Gu Baixian glanced to the left with fear and said in a low voice, Jiang Tian, don't worry. I'll find you when this archaeological operation is over. It's a warrior, and he knows a little bit of magic. Jiang Tian followed his gaze and looked over. He saw a young man with long hair sitting on the hood of a Wrangler off-road vehicle. He was wearing leather clothes inlaid with rivets and was sipping Highland barley wine from an exquisite silver wine pot. He had obviously heard the conversation between him and Gu Baixian. He looked at him with a faint smile as if saying, If you dare to treat me, I'll kill you with one slap. Jiang Tian was not surprised by this kind of strange cultivator. He was too lazy to pay attention to him, but he smiled faintly and said, Don't be afraid. I'll treat you. While speaking, his right hand pressed and rubbed Gu Baixian's chest. At the same time, several invisible healing talismans were cast, directly breaking the seal. Gu Baixian immediately felt relaxed and warm. He felt indescribably comfortable. He hurriedly said, Thank you, Brother Jiang. Dad, you're cured. Gu Qingqing could not believe it. She looked at Jiang Tian with admiration and said, Jiang Tian, you're so awesome. How did you do it? The moment Jiang Tian broke the restriction, the long-haired young man's entire body shook. His chest was filled with disgust, and then he jumped off the carriage with a gloomy face and approached Jiang Tian. He shouted angrily, "Bastard, you want to die? How dare you break my restriction? Wu Tiankuan, don't hurt Brother Jiang. Although the restriction has been broken, I will still help you find the map of the ruins of immortality." Gu Baixian quickly stood up and anxiously stopped him. Incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. It's the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality again. Jiang Tian's heart stirred. This Wu guy must have threatened Gu Baixian for the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. However, Gu Baixian was not a martial artist. How would he know about this? He didn't have time to think about it. He slowly stood up and said with a smile, "My family has been practicing medicine for generations. It's my responsibility to save lives and heal the injured. Did I offend you? If you scram now, I'll spare your life." He had already seen through this kid's cultivation. Although he was a cultivator of both magic and martial arts, his martial arts were only at the peak of internal force, and his spells were only at the entry level. This kind of strength could allow him to do whatever he wanted in the secular world, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was nothing. You're crazy. How dare you break my restriction and tell me to scram? Do you know that I'm from the Wu family? Wu Tiankuan smiled proudly and said, "In the Yungue Tibetan area, the Wu family is the overlord. If you provoke me, you'll die very quickly." He seems to be Hero Wu's grandson. Hua Qingtian and the others looked at each other and then advised, "Little brother, don't do anything. This is Master Kong. I don't care if he's Master Kong, Master Onion, or Master Garlic. He's going to die today." Wu Tiankuan laughed proudly, pointing at Jiang Tian as he spoke arrogantly. Before he could finish his words, Jiang Tian slapped him across the face. Smash! There was a loud sound. Wu Tiankuan was sent flying a few meters away. He lay on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood with broken teeth. "The person who can threaten me in this world hasn't been born yet." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "How dare a piece of trash like you point your finger at me? Even your grandfather wouldn't dare to do that." Wu Tiankuan lay on the ground and shook his head for a long time before he realized that he had been hit. He could not help but be shocked and angry. He got up and pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted crazily, "How dare you hit me? Brothers, kill him for me." Immediately, 5 or 6 brothers came out of the car with pistols in their hands. The barrels of the pistols were pointed at Jiang Tian, and they surrounded Jiang Tian fiercely. "Guns! Something's going to happen." Seeing this, the surrounding mountaineers were scared out of their wits. They ran away in panic, afraid that they would be implicated. "Young Master Wu, don't be angry. If you're still worried, just give me another seal. I won't ask anyone to undo it. Don't kill him. He didn't mean it." Seeing this, Gu Baixian was so scared that he almost fainted. He hurried forward and begged, "If you dare to kill Jiang Tian, then kill me first. Without me, you will never find the map of the ruins of immortality." Gu Qingqing was also scared out of her wits. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would dare to hit Wu Tiankuan. Although Jiang Tian was from the Jiang family of Jinlin City, such a family was nothing compared to the Wu family of southwest China. After all, they were a martial arts family. Although she was so scared that her delicate body was trembling uncontrollably, she still used her weak body to block Jiang Tian. Seeing this, Jiang Tian was slightly moved. This world was not so cold. It was not always a snob, but a place where the strong stepped on the weak. For example, Gu Baixian and his daughter knew how to repay kindness. They would even use their lives to protect him. "Wu Tiankuan, stop. He is Kong Teichu. If you dare disrespect him again, you will regret it for the rest of your life." Wei Feilong yelled. He had always been kind to others and did not want to kill each other in the martial arts world. If the Wu family went up against Jiang Tian, they would be dead. It would be a disaster for the martial arts world. Who cares about him? Let him die. That's right. How dare he offend Master Kong? Hua Qingtian and Zhao Yuankuan were gloating. The martial arts world had always been filled with disputes. Zhao Yuankuan, Hua Qingtian, and Wu Yingxiong were both veteran grandmasters, so there were some conflicts between them. Moreover, Wu Yingxiong had always been arrogant and conceited. He did not take the martial arts world of the Central Plains seriously, and his personality was not likable. Last year, the Martial Arts Alliance conference was held in Gan Province, but Wu Yingxiong did not attend. It was obvious that their relationship had become distant. I don't care what he is. He is too spicy, too long, and too smelly. He will die if he offends me. Wu Tiankuan pointed at Jiang Tian arrogantly and bellowed. Kneel down and kowtow to me, and I will leave your body intact. Oh, is everyone gone? Jiang Tian looked around and said slowly, then I can start a massacre. What? Wu Tiankuan was taken aback. Before he could understand what Jiang Tian meant, Jiang Tian had already made his move. Crack, crack, crack. Jiang Tian directly slashed out a demonic flame chi weapon, like mercury flowing down the ground, directly slashing the bodies of those gunmen. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, the gunmen's bodies instantly exploded. Moreover, they burned with flames that soared into the sky. In the next moment, they turned into red ashes that were blown away by the wind and disappeared without a trace. What? Wu Tiankuan was so scared that he almost collapsed to the ground. Demon flame chi weapon, chi manifestation, peak transcendent state cultivation. It's him. By then he had figured out Jiang Tian's identity. He looked at Jiang Tian in fear as if he was looking at the devil. Before he could decide whether to fight or kneel down and beg for mercy, Jiang Tian said calmly, "You disrespect me. How dare you disrespect me? I'll cripple your cultivation as punishment." Before he could finish, Jiang Tian flicked his right index finger and the finger aura missed its target. Bang! With a loud bang, Wu Tiankuan was thrown 7 or 8 meters away. He lay on the ground like a dead dog. His sternum had caved in and he spat out blood. The finger aura had damaged all of his acupoints and meridians. He would never be able to cultivate again. However, he did not dare to act rashly. He said with fear, "Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. I deserve it. I will never seek revenge." He is a martial artist? How can he suppress Wu Tiankuan? He won't even dare to seek revenge. Gu Baixian's heart was pounding. He looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Although he was not proficient in martial arts, he still had some knowledge. Jiang Tian's demonic flame chi weapon and the finger radiance that hit the air to injure people were simply like a god. He was definitely a top expert. "Jiangtan, how can you be so powerful?" Gu Qingqing was also shocked. She could not believe it. Wu Tiankuan was like a devil in her eyes. She hated and feared him, but in the end, fear prevailed. Just 2 years ago, when she went to visit Jiang Tian was still sometimes normal and sometimes crazy. Not to mention when he was crazy, even when he was normal, he was extremely mediocre and useless. But now, Jiang Tian had made him kneel and submit with a single move, causing her to revere Jiang Tian even more. "Get out of here." Jiang Tian waved his hand. He was too lazy to deal with this kind of ant as long as he did not offend him. Wu Tiankuan hurriedly climbed into the off-road vehicle and drove away in fear. After he was far away, the mountaineers slowly returned to the camp. However, the gazes with which they looked at Jiang Tian were already different from before. They were filled with fear and dread, and they avoided him somewhat. They were far away and did not see how Jiang Tian killed the man. However, since the man took out a gun and was subdued by Jiang Tian, it was enough to show that Jiang Tian was powerful. "Professor Gu, why is the Wu family targeting you?" Jiang Tian asked with a frown. The next moment, he added with a smile, "If you feel inconvenient, don't tell me. After all, this was related to the map of the ruins of immortality. If the man did not want to talk about it, Jiang Tian would not force him. Benefactor, you saved my life. Why would I hide it from you?" Gu Baixian bowed deeply and said gratefully and respectfully, "You also know that the Gu family is a small martial arts family. It is not ranked in Huaxia and can't be compared with the giants like the Wu family. However, my father accidentally learned that there is a ruins of immortality in Huaxia. It is an ancient cultivation relic. There is a sea of medicine and spiritual energy. Once you enter, you can easily step into the immortal state and become a deity. My father wanted the family to enter the ruins of immortality, so he arranged for my brother to practice martial arts, and I applied for the Department of Archaeology at Yenjing University. I studied for a lifetime and searched for the secrets of the ruins of immortality. He said with deep emotion, "It can be said that I have read a lot of information over the past few decades. Through various ancient records, I believe that the ruins of immortality really exist." Chapter 266. This should be a small independent space, or a parallel space, which was isolated from the secular world by a super large magic array in the antiquity times. Just like the Peach Blossom Spring recorded in the Book of Peach Blossom Spring, the place where people from Wu Ling entered should be a small immortal ruins. In response, Jiang Tian nodded slightly. After all, in the outer space, many immortal emperors and immortal venerables would create their own small worlds. This was nothing. It was even possible to create a universe after becoming a Hongmeng god. Huaqing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan, and Wei Feilong looked at each other with some surprise. In fact, they had heard some rumors about the ruins of immortality, but they were all vague and illusory. They did not expect this archaeology professor to know more. Later, I have seen many records in unpopular ancient books. There were many gods and spirit beasts that entered our world. They preached, took in believers, killed, and bullied. I suspect that they came from the ruins of immortality. This record does not only exist in the ancient books of Huaxia, but also in the Tibetan Buddhist scriptures, ancient Indian books, and ancient Hebrew books. There are many legends. About the ruins of immortality, there were a few ancient maps and scrolls that were lost in the secular world. However, no one knows how many maps there are and what the patterns look like. However, there is a consensus that as long as you find the map of the ruins of immortality, you can find the way to enter the ruins of immortality. In the Ming Dynasty's notes, Western Jingten, and Quiet Window, there are clear records that there was a divine monkey that broke through the void and came to our world. It once crossed the sea in one step and came to the Himalayas. It picked a kind of divine grass and saved its injured and dying brother. In the ancient Indian religion, this monkey was called Hanuman. Moreover, it and its tribe once cultivated and lived on Mount Everest. These two notes are very credible. I found them in the ancient tombs of two martial artists that I excavated. The author of Western Jingen was a great eunuch in the palace of the Ming Dynasty. It is said that he was also a master. The author of Quiet Window was also a master of martial arts. According to the records, this monkey has fiery eyes and can transform. It has boundless strength and can flatten a mountain with a single strike of its iron staff. It's very similar to the image of Sun Wukong in Journey to the West. Jiang Tian interrupted. However, at this moment, his heart trembled. Back when he was in the outer realm, he had inquired about Empress Fu Yao and the Princess Flower, and he had also learned of a great secret. The Princess Flower had a guardian spirit beast called the Golden-Eyed Battle Ape. The Golden-Eyed Battle Ape clan needed to absorb the extreme yang energy within the Princess Flower, while the Princess Flower liked to eat the feces of the golden-eyed fire monkeys. Could this so-called divine monkey be the same as the Golden-Eyed Battle Ape from the Outer Realms? That's very likely. Perhaps Wu Chenzhen heard or saw the legend of this monkey, so he began to create literary works. Gu Baixian did not think that Jiang Tian was joking. He nodded and said, "After much research, we came to the conclusion that it had lived on Mount Everest and might have even died here. So, we came here many times to search. Finally, Qing Cheng and I found a cave with the skeleton of an ape inside. However, we didn't find the legendary incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. Because I was engaged in this research, I also visited many cultivators and eccentrics. After a while, Wu Yingxiong found out about it. He captured me and interrogated me about the secret of the ruins of immortality. He wanted me to lead them to the cave. Gu Baixian sighed. But it was strange. We went up Mount Everest 5 more times, but we could not find the cave anymore. This is already the 6th time. Maybe it's a concealment array. Jiang Tian had some understanding in his heart. For a spirit beast like this that had already gained sentience and was comparable to an immortal state or Taoist body cultivator, how could its dojo be discovered so easily? Mr. Jiang, if you want to find the cave, I'll lead the way for you. Gu Baixian volunteered. You just need to tell me which mountain it is on. Jiang Tian said calmly. That one, Luo Zifeng. It's a little lower than Mount Everest, but it's still the 4th highest mountain in the world. It's 8,516 meters above sea level. Gu Baixian said. You don't have to lead the way. It's not a problem for me. Jiang Tian said calmly. More than 8,000 meters, or 16 miles, at the foot of the mountain, Jiang Tian's divine sense could almost cover it instantly. Even if he could not explore it at once, he could climb to the middle and cover it. The cave had a concealment array, so it would be difficult for Gu Baixian to find it. It was better to find it alone. At this time, Jiang Tian suddenly thought of something and asked, By the way, since Mr. Gu is a master in the archaeological circle, you should know ancient characters, right? I wouldn't dare to call myself a master, but to be honest, I can recognize 1 or 2 ancient characters of various dynasties, including bone inscriptions, oracle bone inscriptions, bell cauldron inscriptions, stone drum inscriptions, and so on. Speaking of this, although Gu Baixian's words were polite, there was a faintly discernible pride in the corners of his eyes and brows. Well, if you have time, I'd like to ask for your advice. Jiang Tian had just remembered the copy of the remnant scroll of the ruins of immortality that he saw at his grandfather's place, so he asked. He wondered if Gu Baixian could recognize the strange characters on the remnant map. But he came in a hurry and did not bring it with him. It would be great if he had a portable storage device. Whether it was a storage ring or a 100 treasures pouch, it would be more convenient to carry anything. Old Gu, you're not feeling well. Go back first. Jiang Tian pondered for a moment. Seeing that Gu Baixian and his daughter were still looking at him inquiringly, he suddenly smiled and said, Well, thank you, Mr. Jiang. Gu Baixian thanked him verbally, but there was a hint of reluctance on his face. He wanted to say something but stopped. Jiang Tian immediately understood and said indifferently, Brother Zhao, escort Gu Baixian back to Yanjing. If anyone dares to hurt him, kill them without mercy. Zhao Yuankuan stood up and replied. Brother Wei, say hello to Wu Yingxiong. If he dares to harass Professor Gu again, I'll kill his whole family. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Wei Feilong hurriedly replied, No problem. Thank you, Mr. Jiang. You're my savior. Gu Baixian held Jiang Tian's hand with tears in his eyes. It could be said that Jiang Tian was being a good person to the end and helping him to the east. For him, he did not hesitate to offend the martial arts Wu family. What kind of kindness was this? All right. Jiang Tian asked again, Do you have any fruits here? Peaches would be best. Also, give me some yak meat. What a coincidence, I do have some peaches. What do you want them for? Gu Qingqing's face was filled with confusion. Then, she suddenly realized something and said, Oh right, you didn't bring any food, right? Since we're leaving, I'll leave these for you. After handing over the items, Gu Baixian and his daughter said goodbye and were about to return home. Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Gu Qingqing and smiled. All right, is Yilin doing well? Yilin is still studying at Yanjing University. She's my dad's student. She's doing well, but she often misses you. Gu Qingqing looked at Jiang Tian reluctantly. She mustered up her courage and said, Jiang Tian, you must come to Yanjing when you have time. See Yilin and me. I'll definitely go. Jiang Tian sensed the longing in her eyes but did not take it to heart. Girls around her age would be curious and have a good impression of him when they saw his methods. Gu Qingqing packed her bags and quickly boarded the off-road vehicle to return home with her father, Zhao Yuankuan. After driving for a while, Gu Qingqing turned around and glanced at Jiang Tian. She saw that he was still standing there. For some reason, she felt a sense of loneliness and desolation from Jiang Tian. This feeling made her a little absent-minded. I heard from Zhang Yilin that Jiang Tian lost his mind because a large family in Yanjing broke off their engagement. He must be feeling very bitter. Gu Qingqing still felt some bitterness in her heart. However, she immediately curled her lips and snorted coldly. It's just that Jiang Tian suddenly became so powerful. I wonder if that blind young miss would cry from regret if she knew? After Jiang Tian saw them off, he immediately said to Huaqing Tian and Zhao Yuankuan, "Let's go. Let's go take a look at the situation of the princess flower." Master Kong, let's go. Before Huaqing Tian even finished his words, he had already shot toward Mount Everest like an arrow. He flew up and down on the snowy mountain like a skylark, full of spirit. Old Huaqing, nice move. Jiang Tian carried a pressure cooker, a charcoal fire, an alcohol stove, peaches, yak meat, and other items. He took a seemingly slow step forward, but in reality he covered more than 100 meters and soon caught up to Huaqing Tian. Mount Everest was a dangerous place for ordinary people. However, for Jiang Tian, it was as easy as walking on flat ground. If he hadn't deliberately slowed down, Huaqing Tian and Zhao Yuankuan wouldn't have been able to catch up. When Jiang Tian led Huaqing Tian and Zhao Yuankuan to the mountainside, it was already late at night. Suddenly, a strange scene appeared at the top of Mount Everest. In the sky, rays of multicolored light, like auroras, floated in the night sky like colorful ribbons. A natural phenomenon. Something important must have appeared. The princess flower is about to ripen. Jiang Tian squinted his eyes. A surge of divine sense rose like a monstrous wave and swept across thousands of meters of altitude toward the top of Mount Everest. When any important Dharma treasure or earth-shattering spirit fruit or medicine appeared, there would be a natural phenomenon. The first thing that came to Jiang Tian's mind was the princess flower. The princess flower is about to ripen? Then why don't we go and pick it? Huaqing Tian and Wei Feilong asked anxiously. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. He turned around with a stern face and sent another surge of divine sense toward Luo Zifeng. No, we should go to Luo Zifeng first and catch a monkey. Then we can make a pot of peach soup. Also, we need to go down the mountain and find a gong. After a while, Jiang Tian withdrew his divine sense and said leisurely, "Catch a monkey? Make peach soup? That's strange." Huaqing Tian and Wei Feilong were confused. Shouldn't we go and find the princess flower first? I heard along the way that there are experts who want to snatch it. Don't worry, they can't take it away. Jiang Tian said calmly. Gu Baixian was right. Those notes are not legends or myths, they are history. There really was a golden-eyed battle ape who once broke through the void and came to this world from the immortal ruins. He sighed and said, also, we have underestimated the golden-eyed battle ape. It has become a demonic immortal, and an earth immortal at that. He has set up a sealing array around the princess flower. Let alone us, even a half-step immortal state warrior would be killed. Chapter 267. The golden-eyed battle ape clan had exceptionally strong physical bodies. They were hot-blooded, warlike, and arrogant. They were a very powerful clan even in outer space. A golden-eyed battle ape without any cultivation was already invulnerable to transcendent state cultivators, let alone a golden-eyed battle ape that had reached the earth-level deity level. He was as powerful as a deity. Even the sealing array he had left behind could not withstand the attack of a half-step immortal state cultivator. So powerful! Huaqing Tian and Wei Ho exclaimed in shock. They had witnessed Jiang Tian's power with their own eyes. He was at the peak of the transcendent state or even half-step to the immortal state, and he was a cultivator of both Dharma spells and martial arts. However, he still couldn't pluck the DNYU flower. Don't worry about that for now. There's no time to lose. Let's split up. Elder Hua and I will catch the golden-eyed monkey and make peach soup. As for Wei Feilong, you hurry down the mountain and find a gong. Jiang Tian said lightly. Then we will meet at the top of Mount Everest. Remember, don't take the DNYU flower even if you see it. Otherwise, You will lose your life. Although the two of them were confused, they didn't dare to ask more questions. They answered at the same time and went their separate ways. So, the legend of the mystic realm of deity is true. Immortals really exist. Huqing Tian and Wei Feilong's hearts were burning with excitement. They had been cultivating for their entire lives, but they were stuck at the peak of the transcendent state and couldn't even reach the half-step immortal state. However, if they could follow Jiang Tian and enter the mystic realm of deity, wouldn't they be able to break through the shackles and become immortals? On the east side of Mount Everest, a group of about a dozen people was traveling on a snow-covered mountain path. Senior brother, is there really a treasure? A delicate and pretty disciple was walking swiftly on the precipitous rocks and ice blocks like a galloping horse, and he was panting as he asked. Yes, I am certain. I heard that a divine herb had appeared. Overlords from the east and the west are all here. The eldest senior brother, Wang Haitao, who was in his 40s, had a lean face, sword-like eyebrows, and was full of heroic spirit. He wore a Taoist robe and carried a long sword on his back. His sleeves fluttered in the wind as if he was a peerless swordsman who had walked out of a period drama. He had already traveled 30 kilometers, but his expression did not change. His breath was long and steady, showing his exquisite inner force cultivation. So many experts have come. That's good, let's let them experience the strength of our Dian song. Junior brother Qin Xiu rubbed his fists. Eldest senior brother Wang Haitao's eyes flashed with a trace of fanaticism as he said, they only think that the so-called catalyst spring water is valuable, but they don't know that the divine grass is the most valuable. If we pick them and offer them to Master, Master will definitely be able to break through to the deity realm. Everyone hurry up and reach the summit. That's right, if we get the divine medicine and offer it to Master, Master will definitely reward us with medicinal pills and cultivation methods. Everyone was in high spirits and cheered each other on. His footsteps quickened as he climbed the mountain. Yinsong sects more than 10 people climbed the mountain in a very special way. When they encountered a glacier that they could not climb, they would connect their heads and tails and climb up like a long centipede. Once they reached the top, the dozen or so people dispersed again. At the southern foot of Mount Everest, in the thick white fog, an A-Star B-3 helicopter produced by the European Helicopter Company was climbing and approaching the top of Mount Everest with its propellers breaking through the flying snow. This helicopter cost tens of millions, and it was the helicopter that could climb the highest altitude at that time. This model of helicopter had successfully reached the summit of Mount Everest before, but because the summit was too rugged, it did not land successfully. Moreover, this helicopter was completely modified into a military helicopter and was equipped with the M134 minigun, which was known as the god of artillery. This was the fastest machine gun in the world, and it was even equipped with a few rocket launchers. It could be said that it was fully armed. On the cabin of the helicopter, there was an image of two bloody skeletons with two black wings. If there were people from the world's dark organizations here, they would definitely exclaim in surprise, because this was the symbol of the famous Black Wings mercenary group in Southeast Asia. We're almost there, that's the catalyst spring water. This time, we must return with a full load. In the cabin, Oyila the heaven-reaching warrior, Ba-Tu the Black Wings, Tyson the giant elephant, and many other powerful mercenaries were sitting on the bench. They looked up at the summit of Mount Everest expectantly, like a money grubber who saw a pile of gold. Their eyes were burning with passion. At this time, Jiang Tian's divine sense had already scanned the area and found a cave on the mountainside of Mount Luo. This cave was surrounded by ice and snow, and white fog filled the air. Even a mystic enlightening realm cultivator would find it difficult to sense its existence. It is indeed a cave. The concealment array is not bad, but how can it hide from me? Jiang Tian flicked his finger repeatedly, causing numerous finger lights to shatter the ice and shatter the mountain rocks. After a wave of mist surged, it quietly dispersed, instantly revealing the true appearance of a stone cave. This cave is so big! Huqing Tian exclaimed. The cave was located on top of a cliff. The entrance was more than 10 meters high and 5 meters wide. The cave was more than 100 meters deep, and it looked like a wild beast with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow them whole. Even though Huaqing Tian was a transcendent master, he felt small and powerless when he looked at the entrance of the cave. Jiang Tian and Huaqing Tian climbed the mountain rocks and stepped on the falling snow. After a few leaps, they arrived at the open platform at the entrance of the cave. This cave is not natural, it was cut by a sharp weapon. And the edge of the stone table was also cut by a sharp weapon. Standing at the entrance of the cave, Huaqing Tian found that the entrance of the cave was very smooth, and the ground inside the cave was also very smooth. It was not paved with stone bricks, and it made his heart skip a beat. Using a sharp weapon to cut open such a big hole was difficult even with modern technology, let alone the technologically backward Ming dynasty. This showed how powerful the golden-eyed battle ape was. An Earth-level demonic immortal could break a mountain with one palm and swallow a lake with one mouth, let alone open a cave. Jiang Tian walked into the cave with his hands behind his back and scanned the surroundings. The four walls of the main hall were carved with intricate reliefs. Most of them depicted gods, demons, monsters, and monsters in myths and legends. Between the reliefs were inlaid jade stones and pearls, making the whole hall as bright as day. Under the illumination of the pearls, the lifelike reliefs seemed to have souls that were trying to break out of the walls. Below the ground was a vast expanse of whiteness. Upon closer inspection, there were hundreds of skeletons. Some of the bones had been completely crushed, and when the wind blew in, a cloud of dust rose into the air. A wave of yin qi permeated the cave. In the middle of the skeletons was a dried-up blood pool. The four walls of the pool were dark red and eerie. It gave off a chilling air, as if there were ghosts floating above it. Upon closer inspection, the stone table, stone chairs, and stone walls were covered with sword marks. It was clear that a great battle had taken place here. Are these the remains of the golden-eyed battle ape? Huaqing Tian's heart was already pounding when he saw these. He suddenly exclaimed and pointed to the side of the ancient cave. On a stone platform against the north wall of the cave, a giant ape more than 2.5 meters tall stood upright. It was covered in red fur and wore a golden armor. It wore a pair of black boots and a jade belt around its waist. It held an iron-gray iron staff in its hand. It bared its teeth and looked up at the sky. Its golden eyes were still angry and seemed to contain endless resentment and murderous intent. Dead but not fallen. His power still exists. Such a monstrous pressure emanating from a dead person is really shocking. Huaqing Tian's face was shocked. His eyes were wide open as he looked up at the ape's face. He felt very depressed. Even after hundreds of years, the ape still had a peerless domineering aura. It looked disdainfully at the world, making it seem like a demon god that suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths. This kind of domineering aura made Huaqing Tian breathless and frightened. It seems that the cultivation resources in the ruins of immortality are indeed extraordinary. It can even become an immortal through demon cultivation. Jiang Tian also sighed. He found that there were large words inscribed below the platform. My name is the Sacred Battle Ape. I became an immortal through demon cultivation and was not tolerated by the world. Sigh. A demon had a brother who was trapped in a group of enemies. I fought back with my severely injured body. I defeated 3 immortals with my staff, but I was powerless and died together with them. My body is hidden in the demon cave of Nirvana. I am ashamed and sealed here. Regretful. Regretful. The line of words was vigorous and powerful, like dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. However, it also exuded a sorrowful aura. It moved one's soul and made one feel emotional. I see. Jiang Tian was also slightly moved. He said with deep emotion, it is 10 times or 100 times more difficult to enter the Tao as a demon than ordinary people. However, this ape was heroic. Not only did he enter the Tao, he could even kill immortals. How rare. Yes, when he was alive, his divine power was unparalleled and indomitable. After death, his immortal body was immortal and stood upright. His monstrous domineering aura did not dissipate for hundreds of years. He was indeed a peerless hero who looked down on the world. Jiang Tian was still able to maintain his composure, but Huaqing Tian was practically screaming. He was quite shocked. He also secretly sighed. No wonder Yi Zhantian and the other powerful cultivators in Huaxia liked to cultivate in seclusion and did not care about the world. Compared to such a powerful force, what was the fame and wealth of the mortal world? At this time, Jiang Tian began to scan the ape's body with his divine sense. His divine sense penetrated the monstrous demonic aura and pressure. Jiang Tian brushed the hair on his head aside and saw a sword hilt deeply embedded in his neck. A flying sword! Jiang Tian exclaimed. Jiang Tian slowly pulled out the sword. He saw that the sword was completely black and exuded a strange light. The light was cold and intimidating, and it was very heavy. Jiang Tian was shocked again. It's made of immortal tear black gold. This was definitely a flying sword. It was just that too much time had passed, and there was very little mana and spirituality left. However, immortal tear black gold was very rare even in outer space. It could be used to forge top-grade flying swords. No wonder this powerful ape demon was still killed by someone. He felt a surge of excitement. This trip was really worth it. The information provided by Gu Baixian was too important. The heavenly court. Suddenly, Jiang Tian was shocked again. He saw two small golden characters engraved on the sword hilt. It was very ancient and elegant. After seeing the copy of the Ruins of Immortality from his grandfather, he learned a lot of information about ancient characters. Although he could not decipher and recognize the characters on the copy, he could definitely recognize the golden characters. The Heavenly Court? What organization or person is this? Master Kong, could it be the Heavenly Court in the myths and legends? Huaqing Tian was very shocked. What he saw today had completely shattered his worldview. Even though he was experienced and knowledgeable, he could not think of a reason no matter how hard he racked his brain. Jiang Tian was speechless. You ask me, but who should I ask? Jiang Tian was very proficient in cultivation, but the problem was that he did not understand the cultivation world of Huaxia. When his master took him on the ancient path of the stars, they passed through the ruins of immortality and went straight into the depths of the universe. For his master, whose cultivation was already very high at that time, the ruins of immortality were not a challenge at all. Therefore, Jiang Tian knew nothing about the ruins of immortality. Chapter 268. Jiang Tian tossed the heavenly court sword to Huaqing Tian. He thought to himself, I'll erase the spiritual imprint on it and refine it into my own flying sword. My combat power will definitely multiply, and I'll be able to easily kill a half-step immortal state cultivator. Huaqing was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. He hurriedly said, Thank you, Master Kong, for giving me this treasure. You sure know how to take advantage of me. Jiang Tian glared at him. I didn't say I'm giving you this sword. It's useless to give it to you. Hold it for me first. Oh, I'm so sorry, Master Kong. Huaqing was speechless. He was extremely embarrassed. You should have explained it clearly. You've made me happy for nothing. Then, Jiang Tian removed the metal rod and the golden armor. This metal rod was made of a strange metal called golden essence metal. Although it was not as good as the immortal tear black gold, it was far better than any weapon material on Earth. There were many defensive patterns carved on the golden armor. It was also a Dharma treasure, but too much time had passed, and its dharmic powers had been lost. However, when Jiang Tian removed the golden armor and metal rod, the sacred battle ape's skeleton seemed to have lost its support and instantly fell to the ground. It cracked and disintegrated, turning into white bones and dried-up body parts. Jiang Tian was not surprised by this. The sacred battle ape relied on the armor and the remaining dharmic powers in the metal rod to maintain its physical body. Without them, it would have been reduced to ashes. However, he sighed again in his heart. It was really inconvenient to not have a storage Dharma artifact. There were not many things here, and Huaqing was almost unable to carry it all. Jiang Tian and Huaqing Tian searched carefully again. They did not find any concrete clues about the immortal ruins in this ancient cave or the sacred battle ape skeleton. However, at least now Jiang Tian could confirm that the immortal ruins were real, and not just a vague legend. "It's time to catch the monkey," Jiang Tian said calmly. "Yeah, where's the monkey you're looking for?" Huaqing Tian looked around in confusion. "Don't worry." Jiang Tian ignited the charcoal and placed it on the pressure cooker. After the water boiled, he removed the pit of the peach and threw the yak meat into the cooker together with the skin and meat. After that, Jiang Tian added more medicinal herbs. Instantly, it turned into a pot of black soup. "That's disgusting. Are we going to eat that?" Huaqing Tian was puzzled. "Everyone says that Master Kong is a wife-doting demon. Your culinary skills don't seem to be too good. Is this edible?" Jiang Tian ignored him, but strangely enough, although the broth was ugly, there was a strong aroma coming from it. It immediately made Huaqing Tian salivate, and his fingers itched. "It's disgusting, but I also want to eat it." This feeling was truly ecstatic. Huaqing Tian didn't dare to look anymore. "It's not for us to eat. Let's lure the demon monkey's descendant first. It'll be of great use later." Jiang Tian used his divine sense to transmit his voice. He also cast a talisman into the peach broth and said, "Put on the golden armor and pretend to be asleep." "Huh, it has descendants?" Huaqing Tian was stunned. He felt like he had been tricked. Why did it seem like he had become the bait? As expected, Jiang Tian restrained his aura and cast an invisibility talisman on himself. He instantly disappeared. As expected, "I've become the bait." Huaqing Tian wanted to cry, but no tears came out. However, he still obediently put on the golden armor and closed his eyes. The broth rippled with the fragrance. The ancient cave was quiet. Only the whistling of the wind outside the cave and Huaqing Tian's own rapid heartbeat could be heard. After 2 hours, there was a thump, 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 footsteps that were as intimidating as muffled thunder, and a wave of bloody aura assaulted their faces. Huaqing Tian was alarmed. He opened his eyes a little and almost screamed in fright before suffocating. He saw a 3-meter-tall giant red ape glaring at him with its golden eyes. Then, its venomous gaze swept across the naked sacred battle ape's corpse and landed on his armor and the iron staff in his hand. The giant ape was like a demon god. Its eyes shot out rays of sharp golden light, and its body was surrounded by a demonic aura. Its aura was terrifying. The demonic aura was so dense that even a drop of it could crush an internal force master. Suddenly, its face twisted. It bared its fangs and roared. It was like a cat catching a mouse. Its huge, fan-like palm covered in red fur grabbed at Huaqing Tian. "Master Kong, come out and fight the monster." Huaqing Tian stomped on the ground and shot out while screaming for help. It could be said that he had never felt such a terrifying sense of danger even when he was fighting against Lin Zhenyu. Dazzling sparks flew. The descendant of the battle ape's claws scratched Huaqing Tian's stomach, leaving deep marks on the hard stone wall. If it had clawed Huaqing Tian, he would have been seriously injured, if not killed on the spot. "Get out of the way!" Jiang Tian suddenly appeared behind the descendant of the battle ape. He waved his fingers and a demonic flame chi weapon swept toward the ape like a knife cutting through water. Bang! With a loud sound, the giant ape was immediately sent flying by Jiang Tian's sword strike, causing the ground to shake and the mountains to shake as it fell flat on its back. The giant ape got up and charged at Jiang Tian again. "I will kill you if you don't stop." Jiang Tian let out a cold snort and slammed down with his palm again, directly slamming the body that was as heavy as a mountain into the ground. His knees smashed into the ground, shattering the rocks and creating a deep pit with a radius of 1 meter. Jiang Tian was amazed by the power of the battle ape. Although the descendant of the battle ape was small in size, it was a true primordial demonic beast. Moreover, it was an untainted demonic beast. It could not be compared to the white ape that Jiang Tian had killed in search of the life crystal. It was even 10 times or 100 times stronger. Jiang Tian knew that the ape's body was strong, so he used all of his strength. Even a transcendent state cultivator would have been smashed into pieces, but the attack didn't hurt the ape at all. Even the Li fire chi weapon didn't injure it severely. Moreover, the ape had cultivated demon arts and was able to transform. Its combat power was equal to that of a grandmaster in the martial arts world. The ape roared and attacked again and again. Its combat power was monstrous. It punched and kicked, shattering the stone table and shaking the mountain. However, it couldn't hurt Jiang Tian at all. Jiang Tian countered every attack. The ape either knelt on the ground or flew away. In the end, the ape was so tired that it couldn't get up. Jiang Tian beat it until it was full of injuries. It knew that it was no match for Jiang Tian, so it didn't fight back. It sat on the ground and wiped its tears. It looked at the corpse of the battle's sacred ape with sadness and regret. Yes, it was very sad. Its expression was as vivid as a human's. As it cried, it moved forward and hugged the head of the battle's sacred ape, kissing and touching it. Tears rolled down its face. It looked up to the sky and pounded its chest, letting out a heart-wrenching cry. The ape seems to be very sad. Qing Tian came over and said sympathetically, "Well, it probably thought that its ancestor wasn't dead yet." Jiang Tian smiled. This ape should have 100 years of cultivation. It wasn't as old as the red-eyed white ape, but it had already gained intelligence. Then, Jiang Tian looked at the descendant of the battle's sacred ape and said calmly, "Your ancestor has been dead for a long time. What's the use of you guarding it here?" The ape looked at Jiang Tian and became even sadder. It hugged the corpse and cried again. All right. Look at you. You're so hungry. Hurry up and eat some yak meat." Jiang Tian threw a big piece of yak meat to it. As if it felt Jiang Tian's kindness, it took the yak meat and ate it. However, it still cried sadly. "There seems to be something in your stomach?" Jiang Tian frowned when he saw that there was a bulge in its stomach. There were stitches on it and pus was oozing out of it. The ape pointed at the sacred battle ape's corpse and then at its own stomach, making a sewing motion. "Oh, I understand. Do you want me to help you take out the thing inside and treat the wound?" Jiang Tian said with a smile. He had already understood something after using his divine sense. Woo 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 woo. The ape's face was filled with gratitude and joy. It pursed its lips and cheered. It kept kowtowing to Jiang Tian, seeming very willing to do so. Jiang Tian stepped forward and formed a chi weapon at his fingertips. He quickly peeled open the wound. There was a scroll made of animal skin inside. However, it was different from the words in the ruins of immortality that Jiang Tian had seen before. "This is also a map. I don't know where it leads." Jiang Tian was not in a hurry. He let Qing Tian take it first. "This is the 9 Swords Immortals, tomb." The ape suddenly spoke in a muffled human voice. "Damn, you know how to talk." Jiang Tian smiled. Qing Tian was even more amazed. "I'm not very good at it. There are very few Han people here." The ape struggled to speak again. 9 Swords Immortal. Oldhua, do you know who he is?" Jiang Tian asked with a frown. "I've never heard of him. He should be an ancient person. I'll look into it later." Qing Tian shook his head. "Enemy. He killed my ancestor. My father asked me to dig up his tomb and take revenge. However, I don't know where he is." The ape said with a hint of resentment. "Fuck, you sacred battle apes are really daring. Very vicious. I like it." Jiang Tian praised. He took out a detoxification pill and crushed it. He mixed it with healing powder and sprinkled it on the wound. Then he threaded a needle and stitched it up. At this moment he already had some understanding. It seemed that the 9 Swords Immortal was from the heavenly court. He should be the culprit who killed the battle's sacred apes. "You're so nice." The ape looked at Jiang Tian gratefully with tears in its eyes. Affectionate. The ancient scroll in its stomach had tortured it for too long. Now that the pain was gone, it felt extremely relaxed and comfortable. Naturally, it was grateful to Jiang Tian. "Don't look at me with such affectionate eyes. I'm scared." Jiang Tian glanced at it from the corner of his eyes. The ape was confused for a moment. Suddenly, it pointed at a red object and shook its head firmly. "Ha! Qingtian laughed so hard that tears almost came out of his eyes. Fuck you. Jiang Tian was speechless. After treating the wound, Jiang Tian slowly said, "If you want to thank me, then help me get the Empress flower. Is that okay?" The ape bowed and nodded repeatedly. "You're a beginner demon. You should be able to transform, right?" Jiang Tian asked. The ape nodded again. Jiang Tian took off his down jacket and said, "Shrink it and let me wear it. What do you think you look like when you walk around with your penis swinging around every day?" The ape cast a spell and its body shrunk, turning into a small monkey the height of an adult's calf. After it was wrapped in a red down jacket, it no longer looked ferocious. Instead, it looked smart and cute, and it even looked comical. Chapter 269. Do you have a name? Jiang Tian asked. The little monkey spoke and gestured. It said that it was the 4th-generation descendant of the sacred battle ape. It only had 100 years of lifespan and had never seen a living sacred battle ape. Not long after it was born, its parents died and it did not have a name. Its ancestor was called Qi Aoxing, and its grandfather was called Qi Luozi. Poor baby. You lost your mother when you were young. How about I call you Monkey King? Jiang Tian asked with a smile as he beckoned the monkey to jump onto his shoulder. Awesome. The little monkey bowed and nodded. It seemed that it liked the name very much. No, you are not a Monkey King yet. You are just a little demon. Let's call you Monkey King. Jiang Tian stroked its head and said seriously. Good, good, good. This name is mighty and domineering. The little monkey squatted on Jiang Tian's shoulder and rubbed its head against Jiang Tian's ear happily. Jiang Tian was very happy that he had successfully fooled the descendant of the sacred battle ape. He asked, "How is Brother Wei?" I have already used the satellite phone to tell him our GPS coordinates. He will be here soon," Qingtian said. Sure enough, not long after. Wei Fialong flew over with a copper gong in his hand and asked, "Grandmaster Jiang, is this suitable?" Jiang Tian took the gong and held up a bowl of steaming meat soup. "I will go there alone. Don't show up. Even if you do, pretend that you don't know me." "Why?" The two of them did not understand. Treasures move people's hearts. Jiang Tian sighed. This imperial ladyflower is a spiritual item of heaven and earth. It is a divine herb. Whoever gets their hands on it will bring about countless disasters. Why should I add to the trouble? The two of you are too famous. If people follow your clues, they will definitely find me. That makes sense. We will help Master Kong in the dark. The two of them immediately understood. I'm afraid that the people at the top of Mount Everest are busy fighting for the D-Maiden flower. Jiang Tian walked out of the cave and looked up at the peak of Mount Everest. He let out a long sigh and shot towards the peak of Mount Everest. At the top of Mount Everest, the area was so vast that one could not see the end of it at first glance. The mountain rocks were towering and precipitous, and the snow was falling like goose feathers. In the middle of a valley, there was a simple and crude temple. The walls were made of mountain rocks, and the roof was covered with grass. There were only 3 small houses and a small courtyard. However, unlike other places, this place actually had a suitable temperature that was like a bright and beautiful spring day. Flowing springs gurgled, fragrant grass swayed, and there were even wild rabbits and deer running about within it. It had a circumference of 4 to 5 kilometers, and it was like a paradise of immortals. There were 3 men standing at the entrance of the small temple. One was an old monk in yellow robes, the other was a middle-aged man in white robes, and the last one was barefooted. This poor monk has been guarding this princess flower for more than 10 years. It's about to mature. Let's see who dares to snatch it from me. The old monk in yellow robes was Guru Qing Lian, the most eminent monk in India. He was wearing a kasaya and holding a purple gold Buddhist staff in his right hand. His aura was surging like the ocean, and his face was ferocious. Clearly, he was not someone to be trifled with. Guru Qing Lian, the princess flower is about to mature tonight. If you can't break the seal, you won't be able to get it. The man in white robes had tanned skin and firm muscles, but he gave people a sense of flexibility and flexibility. I heard that many overlords are coming to snatch it. Why don't the three of us work together to break the seal and share it? Singh, you are already the most famous yoga guru in India. You are almost an immortal state cultivator in Huaxia. I didn't expect that you would also want to get your hands on the princess flower. Guru Qinglian's eyes flashed coldly. Far from it. Singh meant lion in Indian. His eyes shone brightly and his curly hair looked like a lion's mane. He looked extraordinarily powerful. Singh smiled and said, I heard that many overlords from the Diensong sect in Huaxia and the Chinese society in Singapore are coming to snatch it. If you work with us, you might be able to share it. But if you don't work with us, I'm afraid you won't get anything. That's right. Guru Qinglian, you have been guarding it for 10 years. How can you give it to an outsider? The man in gray said. He carried a shield on his back and a long blade in his hand. His clothes were also very strange. He was wearing an isosceles triangle sewn with cloth on his upper body and lower body, which looked like a pair of briefs. Large patches of shiny skin were exposed, and he was not afraid of the cold at all. He was an expert in the traditional Indian martial arts called Kalalipiat. The practitioners of this martial art were known as Gurukar. He was the most powerful martial arts master in India and was comparable to the grandmasters in Huaxia. As he spoke, a rumbling boom akin to muffled thunder erupted in the sky, and all of the natural phenomena from before disappeared. The aurora-like five-colored light receded, and the imperial maiden flower in the spring swayed before releasing bursts of red light, as if a Buddha had descended upon this world. The three of them widened their eyes and trembled with excitement. The princess flower was finally going to ripen. Whoever got it would be able to enter the immortal state and become the most powerful person in the world. He would be immortal and thousands of sects in the world would have to bow down to him. The princess flower was filled with red clouds and thousands of colorful lights. Rays of spirit chi like the first blooming of Hongmeng filled the air. It made the three of them feel refreshed. The spirit chi and the light formed the shape of a red phoenix. It spread its wings and was about to take flight. Lord Buddha, God has eyes. The princess flower has finally ripened. Master Qinglian put his palms together devoutly and chanted the name of Buddha. He was so excited that tears streamed down his face. This is the most precious treasure in the world. It's all mine. It's all mine. Singh's eyes were full of excitement and his body was trembling. He could not wait to rush over and take it for himself. What are you waiting for? Let's break the restriction and get it together. The man in gray was excited and rubbed his palms. At this moment, several figures in Taoist robes flew over and stopped the three of them. Wang Haitao, who was the leader, sneered, "Ha, Master Qinglian, this magic herb is located at the north foot of Mount Everest. It belongs to Huaxia. How can it fall into your hands? Let's go quickly before we start a massacre." "Who are you?" Master Qinglian asked coldly in broken Chinese. "I'm Wang Haitao, the first disciple of the Diensong faction in Wolyang Mountain." Wang Haitao smiled. At this moment, the top masters of the Diensong faction also rushed over. They all held the hilts of their swords and looked at the three masters of India cautiously. "Oh, this princess flower is originally a spiritual treasure of heaven and earth. If you want it, just take it." Master Qinglian put his palms together and smiled kindly. "Is that so?" Wang Haitao frowned and thought to himself, "Is there something wrong with this?" However, when he saw the princess flower, he was also envious. He pointed at the handsome junior brother and said, "Peng Jipei, you go and get the flower." "Yes, senior brother." Peng Jipei was so excited that his face was flushed and his heart was beating wildly. Plucking the princess flower and giving it to Master would be a great merit. Now it had fallen into his hands. As he spoke, his body swayed and he used the swimming dragon body movement skill of the Diensong faction. He rose into the air and flew toward the princess flower. In fact, he was also worried that the people of India might have set up traps or hidden weapons. That was why his feet did not touch the ground. He flew like a swallow in the water. His speed was extremely fast, his posture was beautiful, and his movements were flexible. In an instant, he crossed a distance of more than 10 meters and was only 3 meters away from the princess flower. Good. The people of Diansong faction cheered in unison. Even Wang Haitao nodded slightly in approval. Peng Jipei was only in his 20s, but he was also highly valued by Diansong faction. He was an elite disciple and already had the cultivation of advanced stage internal force. However, at this moment, a purple lightning bolt appeared out of nowhere and struck Peng Jipei's body like a purple python. Peng Jipei did not even have time to scream before he turned into a pile of ashes and fell into the grass and sprang. Hiss! Everyone from the Diansong sect sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. Their faces were pale and their hearts were pounding. The shock of seeing their former fellow disciple turn into a pile of ashes in an instant was unbearable. "Senior, isn't this too vicious?" Wang Haitao glared at Master Qing Lian and shouted, "Senior, if you want to give it to someone else, why did you set up a trap? Using schemes to kill people, is this the way of a monk?" No, this is not my array." Master Qing Lian put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. He smiled faintly and said, "Didn't your master tell you that the princess flower is a spiritual item of heaven and earth and has a natural restriction? It's just that I didn't expect it to be so powerful." "Brother Wang, you're too reckless." At this moment, another figure leaped over. It was an old man in a green robe with white hair and beard. He was very old, about 80 years old, but he was very domineering and arrogant. He looked at the world with disdain and arrogance. Moreover, his eyes were shining like divine lightning, and his tall body was extraordinarily mighty, just like a male lion or ferocious tiger. "Senior Wu, you're here." Wang Haitao was slightly stunned, then he showed some respect and saluted. The old man was Wu Yingxiong, the overlord of the Southwest. He was a transcendent grandmaster and was as famous as Huaqing Tian and Yi Wudao. He had been working hard for decades and had dominated the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau. Besides, he had a good relationship with many Gu sects in the southwest, which made him very difficult to deal with. Diansong was a semi-hidden sect, so the sect leader of Diansong had the right to ignore Wu Yingxiong. However, Wang Haitao was only an initial success transcendent state cultivator. Haitao, don't be in such a hurry. First, there is the restriction. Second, there are enemies outside. Let's work together." Wu Yingxiong strode over, completely ignoring Wang Haitao. Even Grand Scholar Qing Lian was disdainful. He then gestured at the two young men behind him and said, "Young Lord Ying, young Magus God, please take a look." Silent Shadow, the young sect leader of the House of Shadow Blight. Young Magus God, the young sect leader of the Ghost Magi sect. The people of Diansong were all secretly shocked. They looked at each other and revealed expressions of dread. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.